I love when abusers get abused. I don't think I can say that. Hi, my name is Kaylee. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is Read Rant Review, where you guessed it, I read books and do rant reviews. Not sure about you guys, but I have been so obsessed with the rant review style videos. That's like literally all I've consumed. I have listened to 3-hour reviews of books so many times over that I decided it was probably time that I give back to the community. I did just want to shout out like the two people who have inspired me the most, being Natalie from Weirdo Book Club and Rachel from Reads with Rachel. I love both of them, highly recommend their channels. With that being said though, what book are we covering today? My friends, we are covering Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, who, in my opinion, is just as guilty as Colleen Hoover for writing romance abuse novels. I don't know how Colleen has been so held accountable over the last year and couple of months. There's been a shift on her, but not on Lucy. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. So we'll get into that. We'll get into the book. But before we do, I do just have a couple of disclaimers. Number one, obviously, this review is not for Lucy. This is not for people who enjoy this book. I will be shit-talking it. I will be pointing out the flaws in it. And while I will also be pointing out where I think Lucy Score shines and why I understand why people enjoy her books, this will mostly be criticizing the character development and the relationship between the two main characters. This is going to be spoilers and not for people who can't deal with general discourse and differing opinions. With all of that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So a quick review of what the book is and what we're working with here. Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score was published in 2022. It is book one in a trilogy that is based in Knockemout, Virginia. Knockemout. Knock 'em out. A rough around the edges town where disputes are settled the old-fashioned way, with fists and beers. Usually in that order. It is currently sitting at a 4.17 on Goodreads with 773,000 reviews. That is such an ungodly amount of reviews and an ungodly reach that this woman has with these books, and then perpetuates and normalizes abusive behavior. I think a lot of rant reviews call out books that are just poorly written, or that are just in general crappy or crazy or whatever. And that's where I have such a problem with Lucy and Colleen Hoover, is objectively they could be okay writers or good writers, great writers, and have this audience and this reach, and this is what you choose to do with it. This of all things. I'm gonna just read you what the back of the book says, because again, it sets a wonderful tone. Bearded bad boy barber Knox, Knox by the way, Knox prefers to live his life the way he takes his coffee, alone, unless you count his basset hound Waylon. Knox doesn't tolerate drama, even when it comes in the form of a stranded runaway bride. Naomi wasn't just running from her wedding, she was riding to the rescue of her estranged twin sister to Knockemout, Virginia. Okay, as it says, she's a runaway bride. Army crawl style crawl? Am I having a stroke? She army crawls out of the church basement, on her wedding night. She gets a phone call from her sister that says she needs help. It's the perfect excuse that Naomi needed to leave. So she crawls out of the church basement, drives through the night from New York to Knockemout, Virginia to come to her sister's rescue. Keep in mind, she got the wedding dress in the back. She still has the wedding updo with daisies in her hair, just driving straight there in her little yoga outfit to escape the world. She arrives in Knockemout. This is the worst way to ever introduce a character. So she is obsessed with coffee. And don't worry guys, Lucy Score will not let you forget that, because in the first 10 pages of this book, the word coffee, latte, and caffeine are used 18 times in the first 10 pages. Here's the word count for the total for the entire book. An excessive amount, by the way, for somebody who does not work in a coffee shop and who, no part of this book, I think they go to the cafe 2 times in the entire book. It is a very character-defining thing and little quirky. So when I was reading the book the first time and that came up, and I had to power through the first 10 pages because I got to page 5 and I was like, I can't. But I powered through because everybody loved it. And they proved me wrong, and I'm just very upset about it still. So she finally makes it to Knockemout. First thing she does is she goes to this cafe to meet with her sister. She goes inside. everybody's side-eyeing her really bad, and the barista refuses to give her coffee, and she doesn't understand why until she looks up and she sees on the board under a do not serve sign is a photo of her twin sister Tina, her evil twin sister Tina, might I add. And then we get a lovely blurb of her describing her sister. It says, I looked like I'd had a long-term threesome with a tanning bed and cheap eyeliner. I want to sit on that for a second and again make clear that these people thought she was Tina. They had to check, she literally had to pull out her driver's license to prove to this barista that she was not her sister. So I feel like there should maybe be some self-reflection on how we talk about somebody who looks just like you, but whatever. So she has to pull out her driver's license. She's like, I'm not my sister. The guy finally is like, oh, my bad. Goes to make her coffee. As he's making the coffee, Knox Morgan storms in, toe-to-toe with her to kick her out of this cafe because everybody was calling him, because apparently he's the fucking town bouncer, and was like, Tina's here and you need to get rid of her. So he shows up, right up to her. This is Naomi's description of her first seeing him. The bad-tempered, sexy man-beast held up his finger in the barista's direction. 1 second, bud. Looks like I gotta take out the trash. The trash? I gasped. I thought Virginians were supposed to be friendly, and instead I'd been in town barely half an hour and was now being rudely accosted by a Viking with the manners of a caveman. So eventually, he, listens and gets out of his little roid rage and realizes his mistake and introduces himself as Knox. Naomi, after hearing his name, thinks, what kind of name was that? Was it a hard Knox life? Did he tell a lot of Knox jokes? Was it short for something? Knoxwell? Knoxathin? So that's where we are in the book. I would like you to know that this chapter in this opening perfectly summarizes everything that you would possibly need to know about how this book is going to go. So he storms in, he's talking crap to her, she gets fed up with it, she leaves, she goes outside, her car is gone, and her purse was in her car, and her phone is also gone because she lost it in a roadside incident, or rest stop incident, is what she'll explain later in the book. But, let's unpack this for a second, because I can suspend my disbelief for a lot of things. I read I read monster romances, for Christ's sake, and I draw the line at a New Yorker leaving her purse in her vehicle. And also, how did you pay for the coffee if your purse was in your car? And also, between the time of her getting out of her car, having a coffee made, Knox showing up in the middle of that, Tina was able to break into your car and hotwire it and leave? Or you're telling me she left her keys in the car unlocked, keys in the car and the car unlocked? Because again, don't believe that for a second. You can stop right there. This would never happen. Let's say that it does. Let's say that she's the dumbest New Yorker in the entire world. She storms out of here. Everything's gone. She's losing her mind, as one would. Knox comes storming out, and then we get his first chapter. In the first 12 lines of text for him, there are 8 curse words. That's how we're introduced to this guy. He calls her trash, and he curses up a little storm. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, that might be a little excessive, but I think you're overreacting. No, I'm not. Look at this table. Look at this table and tell me that. 398 times we say the F-bomb in this book. And I would just like to note that the total 998 curse words, not counting the not safe for work, spicy scene curse words. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, that's another 82. So we are talking well over 1,000 curse words in this book. And Naomi does not curse. It is strictly Knox's chapters and Knox that is saying all of these things. And it's just to prove how cool he is, how edgy he is. This is where I say there's a lot of other ways to convey someone's toughness without dropping the F-bomb 347 times. With that in mind, okay? With the cursing in mind, with this immediate energy that we're getting from this guy, he describes Naomi. And this is the other area where I'm lost. Can't suspend my disbelief for this one either. Naomi, on the other hand, was cut from a different cloth, a classier one. She was tall like her sister, but instead of the crispy fried look, she went in the Disney princess direction, with thick hair the color of roasted chestnuts. It and the flowers in it were trying to escape some kind of elaborate updo. Her face was softer, skin paler, full pink lips, eyes that made me think of forest floors and open fields. I don't think a man who uses 3 curse words per page is gonna describe a woman with chestnut hair. So anyway, banter. He forces her into his car so that he can take her to the police station to report the missing car and the stolen stuff. While they're going there, there's this like weird sexual tension that is very hyped up about the tension in the air and the touching, and like he had grabbed her arm and da-da-da-da-da. It's very forced and very weird, and I don't like it. It was like very out of place. And also very out of place because a man who came at me with such aggressive energy first meeting me, you're donezo. You know what I mean? Like that is an immediate, like, never happening. Don't understand the disconnect there. But whatever. I think because of that though, so this is kind of a little bit of a side note. This book is marketed as a enemies to lovers. They don't even know each other. She's just minding her own business, and he comes in and decides to have beef with this woman. That is the like storyline for this entire book, is this random angry man decides that she's his enemy in the world. That's not enemies to lovers, that's psychopathic, but we'll get into that later. They drive to the police department. As they're going, he's bitching the entire time about how he doesn't want to go to the police department, and she's thinking it's because he's like a criminal. He's edgy and there's like something there. Turns out they pull up to the Knox Morgan Municipal Building. It's named after him. So they go inside and they file the police report, and she's telling the cops about what happened, and they're like, sorry, your shit's gone. Like, that really, really sucks for you. So she, okay, got it. She finishes filing the paperwork that she needs. She steps out of the building, and she, has this realization of how alone she is in the world. Again, car's gone, purse is gone, phone is gone. She just abandoned her fiance. Well, not abandoned, but she ran away from her fiance. Her parents are on a 3-week cruise. Her best friend's out of the country. She has nothing and no one, and she's in a town in a state that she has never been in. Utterly alone with like nothing. And so she gets a little freaky outy, as one would. I would be bawling my eyes out. So she's like, oh my gosh. Knox's reaction. My fight or flight instincts kicked in. I fucking hated tears, especially the kind of the female persuasion. A crying woman made me feel like I was being ripped to shreds from the inside out. A weapon I would never make public knowledge. And so what he says out loud to her, right? He sees her freaking out. That's his internal monologue. What he says out loud: don't fucking cry. It's just a car, and she's just a piece of shit, and neither is worth crying over. You're right. It's just a car. I can get replacement credit cards, a new purse, and another stash of honey mustard dipping sauces. Honey mustard dipping sauces? Yeah, did you hear about the guy who drove through a guardrail a few years back? He ate nothing but ketchup packets for 3 days, and I don't like ketchup. While relatable, and a good idea, to be honest, made me consider putting little ranch packets in my car, because I'm from the Midwest, but she jumps in his car, again, with a strange man that you don't know, who's really angry all the time and like cursing at you a whole bunch. And he takes her back to her motel. They pull up to the motel room, and the door's cracked open. And her first thought is, oh my God, my wedding dress is in there. I don't want him to see my wedding dress. And then she thinks to herself, wait, why would I care if he sees my wedding dress? I don't know. You tell me. We're literally on page like 25. You don't even know this man, and he's been nothing but, okay, all right. So he's like, I'll take care of it, and goes all not CIA, but like all like, I'll clear the room. And like goes in there, right? Busts the door open. Room's ransacked. Like all of her stuff is gone. There's like lipstick on the mirror. Like I think it says like, and everything is gone again, except for the wedding dress in the corner of the room. And one other thing that Tina left behind, her 11-year-old niece, Tina's 11-year-old daughter that Naomi had no idea existed. Once Naomi processes this, and I'm talking processes this in like 30 seconds, she realizes that Tina did actually abandon Waylay. That's the daughter's name, by the way. We'll unpack that later. So has abandoned Waylay. And she decides she's family. I'll take her in. It's fine. I'll take her in. I'll be responsible for her. Just like all of Tina's other messes until we'd turned 18. Okay, two things off the bat, real quick. Let's not call children messes. And your shit's gone. You have nothing. Why? In what world? I understand the problems of the foster care system and all that other stuff. Totally get it. However, this is when you call your parents and you say, hey, get off on the next little island thing and fly on home because shit just went down. This is not a moment where you decide, I'm going to play elder sister fix it all. While I understand the need to save the world. Hello, am I out of focus? I feel like Ariana Grande. While I understand the need to save the world, right? The elder sister mentality of like, fix it. You're twins, but anyway. Not the time when there's an 11-year-old child at the center of this. Like, I don't give a shit. Get over your personality and get over your little savior complex and put somebody, anyway. Oh my God. So she decides she's responsible for it. Knox tries to have her call the cops again to report the break-in and the child abandonment, and her response is, but she's my sister. So she borrows Knox's phone and she calls her sister, and her sister says, yeah, dude, I'm not coming back. Like, I knew you would take care of Waylay. I know she's in good hands. I'm going to go make a bunch of money. I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you when I talk to you. And hangs up on her. And so Knox calls the police chief because he's like, okay, fine. If you don't want to do like a formal report, we'll have the police chief come out and he'll deal with it. Turns out the police chief is Nash Morgan, Knox's younger brother. So Nash shows up, and Knox is already being an overprotective douchebag for no reason. Don't understand that. And also, you're the one that called your brother, but he is instantly not letting Naomi talk to Nash, like instantly talking over her, speaking for her, trying to get Nash to like go away. When again, you're the one that called him, but whatever. So Nash is explaining to Naomi about kinship care and about how she could like formally and legally, take custody of Waylay. And, there it is again. She says, I really need more coffee. And we made it 8 whole pages since the last mention of coffee. She says, okay, about the kinship, and that she needs to go and introduce herself to her niece and try and be friends with her since she's going to be taking care of her. And Knox gets this wild attitude about, you're not staying here. And so she tries to talk to Nash about it and try and get some other plans. And Knox literally texts a guy, like a biker guy, and has the guy fly down the road on a motorcycle so that Nash has to get in his cop car and go and chase the guy to give him a ticket. So we've had a couple, not very cool behavior so far in general that could be chalked up to personality. This, however, my friends, would be a great example of isolation, where he tries to take you away from resources or from important people in your life, family, friends, and stop communication with them. The police, he wants to be the savior, and he's the only one that could ever change your world, and he's the only one that could ever help you. You don't need anybody else. He's already setting that tone. And we are like an hour and a half into knowing him. He says again, you're not staying here, and forces her to pack up her stuff and get in his truck with Waylay to go to Tina's trailer. Tina and Waylay had lived in a trailer. They got kicked out of it. They got evicted because Tina wasn't paying the rent. So they went and broke back into the trailer to look for God knows what. And then they went to the motel, broke into the motel. Tina left Waylay behind. Tina went to coffee shop to go and steal Naomi's stuff. Okay, so that's where we're triangulating. Knox tells Naomi, we'll go back to the trailer then. You're not staying in this motel. We'll go back to Tina's place. And I love nothing more. I love nothing more than the idea of getting in a strange man's car that you don't know, who has already exhibited bad behaviors, with an 11-year-old girl who you've assumed responsibility for. It's one thing to be stupid and I don't want to say be stupid because she doesn't have any other options, but it's one thing to make riskier choices when it's just you. But now we're putting a young girl on the front lines, and I'm not cool with that. This was instantly just made me so icky creepy, crawly, bad feels, like bad vibes, that I felt like I was reading a horror novel. Like, I felt like I was reading a thriller, and this was about to go crazy sideways. So in chapter 5, we're back to Naomi's perspective, and they show up to the trailer. Trailer's trashed. Again, eviction notice, doors wide open, there's like trash everywhere. It's like just dirty, dirty, bad. And this whole chapter is, I don't know how many pages it is. I didn't take note of that, but it's a lot that really adds nothing to the story. While a good slice of life, and again, this is where I will highlight, Lucy Score's writing. She does great at slice of life descriptions. So describing the trailer, Naomi's feelings about it, Waylay's ties to it, building a little bit of that relationship between Naomi and Waylay, and blah, 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 that ultimately adds nothing to the story other than making me care for Waylay, which is cool. But also, this is why your books are 570 pages long, because you add a 30-page book about a trailer. So good and bad, right? I will read, however, this one description. And it says, there was a bedroom on each end. The one with the double bed had an ashtray on either side. Instead of curtains, thin bed sheets were tacked directly into the wall to block out the sun. The closet and the dresser were mostly empty. Everything had either ended up on the floor or been hauled out the door. On instinct, I peeked under the bed and found 2 empty bourbon bottles. Some things never changed. She's coming back, Waylay said, poking her head inside. I know, I agreed. What the girl didn't know was that sometimes it was years between visits. How do we go from this to Knox's chapters? How do we go? Okay, this is what I mean. Of this is the part of the most parts that I enjoyed about this book were the filler chapters. They were very clearly just trying to get to a word count, or very clearly setting up the other books in this trilogy. Those were the parts that I enjoyed the most, and those were the most worthless parts of the book. So they're in the trailer, they're looking around. Naomi talks about how she's going to get it cleaned up and it'll be just like new. And Knox again says, you're not staying here. And she's, what are you talking about? Of course we're going to stay here. We don't have any other options. And he says, no, get in the truck. And again, I think he grabs her arm. He grabs her arm a couple of times in this book. I think this is one of the first instances, if not the second instance. And again, we're in chapter 5 of 50. So he grabs her arm, tells her that they're not staying there. And she says, okay, cool, that's fine. But I need to talk to the landlord. I need to look through this trash and see if there's any important documents, birth certificates, passport, social security card. Knox says, no, I'll take care of it. You don't need to talk to him. I'll deal with it. Okay. She says okay, because she doesn't have a choice. He forces her into his truck. She's sitting there. Waylay comes outside after he directs Waylay to pack. Waylay appeared in the doorway wearing a backpack and holding 2 garbage bags. My heart shivered. Her life, all of her treasured possessions, fit into 2 trash bags, and not even the good kind with drawstrings. They get in his truck. Total stranger. Drives them into the woods, into the middle of the woods, onto a huge property where I imagine it that it's on a hill and it's a little windy road. So at the bottom of the hill is this very, very large cabin lodge thing, very clearly meant for a lot of people and lodge. Halfway up, there's a cabin. That's Knox's house. And then at the very, very top of the road is a little cutie pie cottage. And that's where the girls are going to stay. It's super, super cute. He brings them there. He says, here you go. She's freaking out, right? Naomi immediately, she absolutely loves it, but she doesn't know how she's going to pay for it. And he says, don't stress it. Liza J owns it. She lives on the lodge at the bottom of the driveway. We'll have dinner with her tonight. You guys can figure it out. She says, cool. Takes a nap. Because, again, girlie drove through the entire night. I do not blame her whatsoever. What I do blame her for is that when she wakes up from her nap, she knows shit says coffee or caffeine 6 times in one singular page. One singular page. And this is where I get frustrated because I have reading comprehension skills. I could read that one time and get the gist. You know what I'm saying? A little excessive, little unnecessary. But one wonderful thing does happen while she's napping. And this is the one thing that I do love about this book is small town saving the day. I love the small town. I love the community. While she was napping, Nash had some people bring in food and Liza brought them bicycles so that they could go and ride around town since she doesn't have a car. And I love the community. Objectively, absolutely love small town coming together and saving the day. That is what makes these little Hallmark movie books so quintessentially cute to me, is the small town part of it saving the day. After she's gotten her coffee and decides that she's going to be a functioning human again, they ride their bikes to town to go to the grocery store. Everybody at the grocery store side-eyeing her again because they think that she's her twin sister and thinks that she's going to steal stuff. So her and Waylay get their little bit of groceries that they need, go back to the cafe to get another coffee, I guess, and some cookies and like a milkshake and stuff. And now the bartender's like their best friend. It's literally been like 4 hours. Just want to remind everybody of that. It's literally been 4 hours of her in this town, and the bartender's giving them cookies, and like the barista's giving them cookies and all BFFs and stuff. As they're having this conversation and she's trying to get to know her niece, this woman flies into the cafe right up to them, starts talking a mile a minute to Naomi and talking about how they're friends. And she says, "Oh, oops, manners, sorry, oops, I'm already several steps ahead in our relationship. You'll just have to catch up." And offers her a job. She says, "Hey, like, you know, I got some stuff. You can make some money tonight. I can get you taken care of." Naomi's a little hesitant, and she says, "Well, I don't have anybody to take care of Waylay. Like, I can't really have a job right now. I don't have a babysitter lined up." And this stranger says, "Oh, we can get that arranged." How does she even know who you are? And how does she know where you were? She doesn't have a phone. She's on bicycles. You're telling me in the 4 hours, people are like triangulating your location and like, you're not going to question it whatsoever? This is like literally like 101 of like, oh, maybe we're about to get kidnapped, or like maybe we're about to get like, I don't know, taken for something. How do you, okay. So she ultimately, Fee is the woman who came in. She leaves and she says, you know, "Hey, I'll see you tomorrow, first shift at a honky tonk." It's the name of the bar. She says, "First shift's tomorrow." Naomi is totally just acting like it's normal. She's pretty much like, "Well, I guess I got a job now." As if this is not literally concerning. She doesn't even ask how she knew them. She didn't ask a single question. There was no act of self-preservation whatsoever, which again makes no sense to me, but cool, we'll go with it. We shift we shift back to Knox's point of view, and he is camped out in a lawn chair in the middle of the driveway, like in the middle of the road thing up to the cottage. And guess why he's there? To block Nash. His brother comes to Naomi to give her an update about the car and police report and stuff, and Knox is just blocking the way. And Nash says, "I've got an update for Naomi." And the what? It doesn't involve you. You don't need to stand sentry like some ugly gargoyle. And then they get into a literal fist fight. 40-year-old, okay? I want to make that very, very clear. Nash, I think, is 36 or 38, and Knox is like 42, I believe, somewhere in that range. We're talking grown men get into a fist fight in the driveway. So Naomi comes running out of the little cottage thing, and she's like, "What the are we doing? Like, what is going on?" And she's holding flowers, and Knox's reaction is, "For a second, I wanted to know who in the hell had given them to her so I could kick their ass." Okay. And so as all this like commotion and ruckus is happening, Knox's dog comes running up to them. Knox's dog, you ask? His name is Waylon. W-A-Y-L-O-N. So we have W-A-Y-L-O-N, W-A-Y-L-A-Y. A dog and a little girl. And Naomi, she thinks to herself, "Waylon and Waylay," she mused. "That won't get confusing." You named them, Lucy. It's not self-aware and cute. It's just stupid. So we finally figure out why Nash came, though. Eventually, after all this drama and cursing and fighting as if we're children, her car had been reported stolen by her ex-fiance Warner. So it gets spilled to the guys that she's a runaway bride and that she stole the car. But they act like it's a surprise that she's a bride, or that she's a runaway bride. And I'm like, did nobody take note of the giant wedding dress in the corner of the room or the very specific updo that she had. It's not like bridal updos are commonplace. Like, I feel like that's a pretty, I don't know, recognizable thing. Definitely a wedding dress in the corner would be recognizable. So as far as I'm concerned, if that's a surprise to them that she was a runaway bride or a bride of some sort, they're just dumber than a bag of rocks. So they all end up walking down to the lodge at the bottom of the thing, right? And we meet Liza J. Liza J is Knox's and Nash's grandmother. And the cabin, again, as I said, used to be a lodge, so it's huge. But it is super dusty and cluttered, and all the curtains are closed, and it's very depressing in there. And as they're making dinner together, Liza has Naomi step out with her so that they can talk about the living arrangement. And Naomi says, "I'll be right back," Naomi promised Waylay. The kid looked confused. I guess no one had ever bothered to tell her when they were leaving, let alone when they would be back. So Liza tells her to not worry about the rent. She says, it's all good, wasn't being used anyway, just take care of utilities. And she also offers to babysit Waylay while she goes to work and has this job and stuff. And Liza asks if Naomi has told Knox about the job offer yet, and advises her not to tell him because he'll have some opinions. And Liza says, I know that you think that you're getting the good end of the deal, but you've got no idea what mess you're getting involved in. Excuse me? What does that even mean? What an ominous thing for a little old woman to say to me. That is, again, like thriller novel level foreshadowing. Like, what the fuck does that mean? I can't tell him that I got a job at a bar? What am I getting involved in? Like, everybody in this book is setting this woman up for failure. Like, at every echelon, they are just setting her up for failure. It is so bad. So they sit down for dinner, and the guys are staring at each other and kicking each other under the table and threatening each other the whole time. Again, in their 40s. After dinner and some relaxing at the creek, Nash tells Naomi, or gives Naomi a pamphlet on custody, saying, like, hey, this is how you make things permanent, because if Tina does come back, she's going to be in a whole lot of trouble and will probably lose custody anyway. So it's just something to consider. And this next chapter is, I think this was the most egregious thing in this entire book for some reason, to most people. Like, this was the breaking point for them for some reason. I'm not sure why this is the one that they chose. Knox, the Viking Morgan, strolled off the deck in nothing but a pair of black boxer briefs. He was all man. Muscles, chest hair, tattoos. He stretched one arm lazily overhead and scratched the back of his neck, creating the picture of sleepy testosterone. It took me a full 10 seconds of open-mouthed ogling to realize the man, like his dog, was peeing. Okay. Cool. So then we go to the library. Like, that's like her wake up thing. That's her first thing when she wakes up. She goes outside and fantasizes about a man taking a pee. Okay, anyway. After the peeing incident, they go to the library, and so Naomi can hop on the computer and email her family back, let them know she's not dead, request new credit cards and all that sort of thing. Any normal stuff that somebody who loses their entire identity has to do to get back on track. While we're there, we learn a little bit about Waylay, who has been doing like IT tech support stuff for the town, which is so cute to me. I love that so much. It's been her little secret thing. Like, she'll just sneak away to the library and go and help people and be IT support. While we're there, we also meet Sloane, who is a woman who I love to death. She is the love interest, I believe, in the third book. We get a lot of information about her kind of going through this, again, to set up the trilogy. But I'm going to read the next little blip of why I love her, because I love communities. I love giving back to your communities and equal education and access to everybody. And Sloane says, when I was a kid, the local library was my sanctuary. It wasn't until I got older that I realized it wasn't accessible to everyone. So I went to school for library science and public administration, and here we are. It's all about community. We've got classes on everything from sex education and budgeting to meditation and meal prepping. We don't have a huge homeless population here, but we've got locker rooms and a small laundry facility in the basement. I'm working on free after-school programs to help families who can't swing the cost of daycare. And of course, there's the books, which is, I don't know, it's just cute. I think in my perfect world, which I think is like most, young girls' dreams, is to own a coffee shop library hybrid thing and just have a little comfort community center I so badly want that. Oh my god. So I love Salon because I want to be her. Anyway, back to the book, I guess. While we're there, Naomi emails her parents. She checks her bank account. It's overdrawn. Thanks, Tina. And she emails Tina, being like, where are you? Like, what's going on? She also emails her best friend, Steph, who is relevant. We meet him quite a bit throughout this book. And she's also getting a lot of weird emails from her ex, Warner. She tries to ignore them, but she's a little curious, so she opens them, and most of them is just him like cursing her out or asking her when she's coming home and that she proved her point and blah blah blah. Cut to our next chapter, Knox's perspective. Knox goes to work at the Whiskey Clipper, a barbershop that again is described like a bar. Everything in this town is described like a bar because it's Knockabout. That's just how it is, I guess. That's cool, I guess. While we're there, we meet his business partner Jeremiah, who we'll come back to that one. Nothing too crazy here other than we get a description about the place and we figure out that he owns Honky Tonk. He owns the bar that Naomi's going to be working at that night. He does not know that though. He owns the entire building, which includes the bar, the barbershop, and then 3 apartments. So I guess they're like all connected. I'm very confused about this, to be honest. And then there's 3 apartments on top. And Nash lives in one of the apartments up top. And in the back of that, though, is this man cave office that is linked to all of the... I think... Dude, anyway, he goes to his little man cave thing behind his job. Just say that. And there's, like, some weird reminiscing about a childhood and a photo of his parents. And I'm supposed to care, but I don't. He's looking at the schedule for the bar, and he notices a gap. And so he calls his bar manager, Fee. She is, in fact... not a trafficker, but instead she poached Naomi to work for her, or to work for him, I guess technically. But Fee doesn't tell him that. Again, everybody's setting Naomi up for failure. Also, just to reiterate how horrible of a situation that we're in, okay? She's now not only living under his grandmother's roof next door to him, she will now be working for him with no money, no other options, and a kid with her. Totally safe. Totally healthy thing to build a relationship on. I think Lucy Score read the word or the term power dynamics and decided, I love power dynamics. I love abusing power dynamics. That would be so sexy. I love the idea of an isolated woman having to rely on a man, and no matter what that man does and how shitty he is to her, she doesn't have an option and there's no way out. That is so attractive. I think that's what she said to herself because there's no other explanation. So while he's back here though, after this weird reminiscing and foreshadowing about his parents and his edgy backstory that will definitely justify his shithead behavior, he internet stalks Naomi. He decides that he wants to know more about her. So he's creeping on her Facebook and he's looking at all these photos of her and Tina, and then he ends up on her ex's and hers engagement announcement, like engagement website, and then he gets all pissed off. That's totally cool. Totally cool. Cut to the next chapter, chapter 11, Boss from Hell, from Naomi's perspective. I haven't been reading the titles of these chapters because they like give away the entire plot of the chapter. There's only one that's worth mentioning later, but you could read the titles of all these chapters and know the entire story. I don't know why she would do that. So, Boss from Hell, Naomi. She's getting all set up for her first shift at the bar. No serving experience whatsoever, by the way. I think she was an accountant or something. So this is like a big learning curve for her. Big deal. Big deal having a job on her feet. Desperate for tips to fund groceries because she wouldn't get her debit or credit card replacements for like a week. She has to work it, baby. I cannot highlight to you enough how shitty of a situation that this is. Unsurprisingly, to absolutely nobody other than Naomi, because again, every single one of these fuckers set her up for failure. Knox comes in the middle of her shift and freaks out. Again, grabbing her by the arm, dragging her off of the floor and into the hallway, literally kicking open a door to like the backroom kitchen area, and yells at people about how he doesn't want her working there. She says, Deciding I had nothing to lose, I hit him again with the tray. Listen, Viking, I don't know what your problem is with me. Whatever narcissistic, delusional roller coaster you're on, I'm not here to ruin your life. I'm just here to earn back some of the money that my sister stole from me, and until the bank unfreezes my account, I'm not letting you or anyone else stand in the way of Whaley's Pop-Tarts. There's some back and forth, and the women all agree and agree that he's being a D-bag and tells him to F off. And he says, get rid of her fee. I'm not working with some uppity, needy pain in the ass. His words carried me outside the door. My cheeks flamed. An uppity, needy pain in the ass. So that's what the gorgeous, bad-tempered Knox Morgan saw when he looked at me. Huh? Okay. I'm just saying, if a man ever called me an uppity, needy pain in the ass, even if I thought he was like the sexiest guy in the world, instant ick factor. I would all of a sudden, I would be like, whoa, that's so weird. It's like all of your flaws all just showed at once. Every single flag that I ever saw is like bright red. Every problem. You're the worst. Look at your nose hairs. You know what I mean? Like I would just see everything. I would be like, why would I ever think that you're attractive? Like, oh my God, like look at this. Like you're hideous. I don't know how this happened. How do you hear somebody talk about you in that way for again, totally unprovoked? And then still call him gorgeous. I don't get it. And again, this is the one time, I think in this book, there might be one other time, where Naomi stands up for herself and she calls it as it is and calls him out for his behavior. And then she gets beaten down and accepts his treatment, okay? And this example, one later, and then the one that we had from Nash, where he called him a gargoyle, is where I have a problem with Lucy Score in particular, because it would be one thing if she was writing this guy and was totally unknowing, I guess, of the problematic behavior and was romanticizing it the entire time. But there's these like perspective moments where the other characters call Knox out directly for his behavior and say exactly what's wrong with it and say that it's super problematic, and then he keeps doing it anyway. There's never any apologies in this entire book. There's never a character arc. There's never a redeeming thing that happens. But everybody knows all the bad things. Lucy Score knows the bad things and acknowledges them as she's writing, with no redemption and no character growth and no apologies and no nothing. And it is just so crappy to me to perpetuate this type of relationship and to act like being talked to this way is okay. Like, I'm just not, I was so frustrated reading that. So the entire shift, he's just talking crap to her and she's pushing back, and she's doing such a good job at this point. Like, she's really doing good at standing up for herself and then also killing it at the job. Like, she's doing so good and she's enjoying it, and it's frustrating him. And so he decides to give her a table full of creepy men. He says, I know, little teacher. Let me give her a table of horribly creepy shitheads that everybody knows is horribly creepy. And even the other workers there, like the other bar people and waitresses, are like, dude, that's fucked up. Like, why would you do that to her? And he says, are you ready for this? This is all in one chapter, this next part, okay? A ride home, Knox's perspective. She didn't belong here. And if I had to prove that by dangling her in front of a wolf, then so be it. I watched as Wiley lavished Naomi with his pervy brand of attention without feeling the least bit guilty. And so this Wiley guy, this super creepy Wiley guy, oh my God. Okay, I totally forgot about this part. So, as he's thinking that to himself, and he's like watching this creepy guy talk to Naomi, he then talks about how she's not his type and she's too stuck up for him, but he hasn't been laid in a long time. Would love to know how those thoughts connected in your brain. So he says that he needs to go and get laid because then I could come back here and not feel compelled to jerk off every time I saw Naomi Witt. What the fuck are we doing? So the creepy guy then grabs her wrist, and Knox goes over there and talks crap to the dude and like pulls Naomi back to the bar. And so Naomi, back at the bar, Knox towers over her and he says, you hit me with a fucking tray for talking shit, but you let that sweaty asshole put his hand on you? I don't have the time to point out to the fact that you told me that if I upset one table you were firing me, so you'll have to settle for this, she said, holding up her middle finger in my face. You sent me over there on purpose, knowing what would happen. I didn't react the way that you wanted me to. Get over it. I sent you over there so you would be creeped out by Wiley, not so he could put his fucking hands on you. If he does it again, I want to know. Oh my God. Oh my God. Then he says, this is the next little bit. You would have thought my brother had just whipped out a solid gold 10-inch dick the way that Naomi flew into him and wrapped him in a hug. "No manhandling of customers," I snarled. She rolled her eyes and gave Nash a peck on the cheek. So then Nash offers to give Naomi a ride home. So kind, so sweet of him. And Knox is thinking to himself, "Fuck me, she didn't have a car. She probably rode her goddamn bike here and planned to ride it home after closing in the dark over my dead fucking body." And so he butts into the conversation and he says, "Okay, bartender will take you home. Like, get off your shift. Like, you're literally like, go home with Sherry." And Naomi's like, "I can't. I got tables. I got shit to do." And he says, "Okay, fine. Then you're coming home with me. I'm driving you home. I'm sure you have better things to do than drive a needy, pain in the ass home. I'm driving you home. Law and Order lives right upstairs. You'd be out of his way. It'd be an inconvenience to him to haul your ass home." So this is so in addition to the isolation, and in addition to all of the other things, like, this was another very, very glaring one where he picked up on an insecurity of hers. Right, very quickly detected this, that she does not like to be a burden to other people. He clocked this as a personality trait of hers, that she's a people pleaser, and is now manipulating her to do what he wants and to get what he wants out of this situation. He could have just said, "You're literally my neighbor. It makes more sense for me to take you home." But he says you're out of his way and it would be an inconvenience to him. Just want everybody to know, like, this is the problematic that I'm saying. Like, that's not cool. Like, that's not okay for a man to, or for anybody, right, to like clock an insecurity and then manipulate you and kind of use that insecurity for their benefit, right? That's not cool. That's not cool at all. Why would we call that romantic? So Nash, the whole reason that he's there in the first place is because they found her car and it was in a chop shop in DC. There's no sign of Tina though. She finishes her shift. They beat last week's sales. Everybody takes a shot at tequila and then she quits. She says, "Oh, I'm definitely quitting. It's the only thing that got me through the shift. I plotted all night. I'd be the best damn server that you ever saw, and then when you had your change of heart, I'd tell you I quit." "You're unquitting. You're just saying that so you can fire me." "No, I'm not. You wanted me to quit. I quit. You win. Yay you." "Yeah, well, you didn't suck and you need the money." This is all I can do. What the f are we talking about? It is very imperative that I read this to you verbatim, okay? This conversation, after he, like, just said that she needed the money and forced her into his car to drive her home late at night in the woods with a strange man she doesn't know. Okay, all right, you guys get the point. "I'm not a complete asshole all the time. So just with me then, I feel so lucky. Cards on the table? You're not my type." Are you kidding me right now? You're not attracted to me, so that just means you can't even be civil to me? "I didn't say I wasn't attracted to you. I said you're not my type." I am definitely going to regret this, but I think you're going to have to break it down for me. "Well, Daisy." So he calls her Daisy because she had daisies in her hair, like the wedding updo thing. I didn't say that, but he literally, like, immediately, like at the very end of chapter 1, started calling her Daisy. "Well, Daisy, it means my dick doesn't care that you're not my type. It's still standing up trying to get your attention. You're too much work." "You're too much work. You come with too many complications, and you wouldn't be satisfied with a quick fuck." I believe Knox Morgan just said he couldn't satisfy me. If only I had a phone to immortalize that statement on social media. You're getting a new phone immediately. It's irresponsible to go without one when you have a kid to think about." "Oh, shut up. It's been a handful of days, not months. I didn't know that I was going to have a kid to think about." I could satisfy the hell out of you, but you just want more, and that doesn't suit me. Because I'm an uppity, needy pain in the ass. I didn't have a defense. I'm an asshole. Plain and simple. And the sooner she realized that, the farther she would stay away from me. Metaphorically speaking. Metaphorically speaking. Because, literally speaking, he has cornered her and forced her into a vehicle with him at his job and a house next door to him. There is no, literally speaking, space between them. There is only metaphorical. "You're lucky I'm too tired to slap you. Jump out of this vehicle and crawl home." "You can slap me tomorrow. It would probably just make you want me more." "You're a pain in my ass." "You're just mad because now you have to find a new spot to pee in your yard." Good callback, I guess. I think on that note, while we end part 1 of this filming fiasco, I think this is a good time to bring up the 500-page thing, 600-page thing that Lucy Score likes to do. because she has so much filler, and again, big spoiler warning, I guess, just in general for the rest of this video as well, and in general of Lucy Score's writing, is most of it, I've read 3 of her books, and they're all the same ungodly length, and all 3 of them have followed the same formula, where it's like 100 pages of tension, and the guy being a dick, and then another 50 pages of him warming up to her, I guess, and then finally in the middle of the book, like 300 pages in, they and then the guy has drama with him admitting his feelings for her. And then there's a crime spree. Randomly, like I picked up a different book, like I'm in a fever dream for like 75 pages. And then the crime spree is what makes him realize that he really does love her. And that's the book, with like chapters upon pages upon pages of filler of side characters and like descriptors that are like not additive to the story whatsoever or additive to the character development in any way. That's Lucy Score's entire formula. There you go. Hey man, you too can be a millionaire and write. Oh my goodness, hello. I am filming after work. I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people that, like, if I stop for even a second, if I sit down, if I change clothes, if I take my shoes off after work, I'm done for the entire night. So I went straight to the office, like my home office obviously, and we're gonna film this in my work attire. So you're scooted a little bit close to me because I'm gonna be eating pizza between takes, and I'm gonna try and get this going, so hopefully I can knock everything out tonight. Bunch of unnecessary information that you don't really care about, I know, but thank you so much for indulging me. We'll do a little bit of a recap for all my ADHD girlies and for anybody who kind of checked out, because I think we've got to be maybe 30 minutes in to the final recording. We are on chapter 13, beginning chapter 13, which means that we have hit right about the 25% mark, and nothing's happened. Like, literally, I would love to tell you what's going on, and not has happened. Naomi showed up and knocked him out. Knox has been a douche multiple times. Naomi got a job at a bar that Knox owns. That's kind of where we are. How do we finish 20% of a 600-page book and have nothing to show for it? I don't know, bestie. Welcome to Lucy Score's writing. So going to chapter 13, it's called History Lessons. This is from Naomi's perspective. And for some godforsaken reason, in my notes, I said, this is honestly where Lucy Score's writing shines. The domestic writing / slice of life stuff, the capturing empathy and care and subtle character building. Overall, her writing is really beautiful, and her characters are very well done when they aren't love interests. It hurts so much to see good writing tainted with cursing and forced romance and romanticized abusive behavior. It's quite the opinion to have. There are multiple filler chapters. I think I mentioned this very early on. There are multiple filler chapters in this book that take up like 20-30 pages that add zilch to the plot, but are beautifully written, and it would be like a short story that I would be interested in reading if it obviously had, like, you know, a little bit more of like a climax and a wrap-up of what's going on. But the quality of writing is there, and the intent is there, and I see why people like Lucy Score. I totally get it. I just wish that she wouldn't knowingly write about abusive behavior, and that's not cool at all, homie. With all of that being said, chapter 13 is one of those filler chapters. The girls, i.e. Naomi, her niece Waylay, and Liza J, the landlord / grandmother of Knox, all go to the pizza shop in town to have a slice and catch up and be friendly. And they're hanging out at the pizza shop. Again, there's like some cute little character building that's not really relevant to anything. The one thing that does come out of this conversation is that Liza J reveals that Knox won the lottery. He won $11 million, and he bought their property, and he tried to give money to his family, and that's how he got all the businesses that he's running now, is through the lottery, and he's been responsible with his money and blah 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 blah. God, do they all have to be millionaires? What is the writing camp that all of these people went to that said, we want millionaires? Eat the rich, eat the rich. The only other thing that comes out of this chapter is Salone comes in with her niece Chloe. Chloe is Waylay's age, and they're going to be starting school together. So this sparks the idea of Naomi throwing a party and inviting Salone and Chloe to it. So Waylay and Chloe can become BFFs, and Waylay can start school on a strong foot, I guess. You know what I mean? Start with some friends, try and be popular, have all the stuff that she didn't have before. The third big thing from this chapter, the third wrap up, is as they're leaving the pizza place, they end up walking by the whiskey clipper where Knox is doing his little hair cutting stuff, and he and Naomi look at each other and have this moment of like eye banging, I guess. It was a very intense from a glance after not speaking to each other after the most awkward car ride in the entire universe. There you go. I'm gonna take a bite of pizza. Oh, so the comment too about me eating pizza and stuff is like, if my lipstick's f***ed up, keep it to yourself, okay? Chapter 14 is from Knox's point of view, and it's about the dinner party that I mentioned that Naomi is hosting. And from Knox's perspective, he shows up to his house. He's going over to have a night with Jeremiah, his business partner, to just kind of hang out and unwind. But as they pull up, they see all of the cars at Naomi's cottage, and Knox instantly gets all pissy. Don't know why, but he sees Nash's car up there, and that is like what tips him over the edge. To the point where Jeremiah is like, bro, like, what is your problem? Like, why are you so angry right now? His response to his business partner, best friend, is it the bisexual part of you that wants to talk about fucking feelings all the time? Or is it the I come from a big Lebanese family that knows everything about everybody part that I can blame? Huh? The bisexual part is at least relevant because he's in a relationship with a man later. But like, what's the Lebanese thing? That felt weird. Anybody else? I saw some of the comments on Goodreads being like, this is so inclusive, like this is such an inclusive book, and I don't think you can say that and then like bring up that he's Lebanese in such a fucking weird way. I don't know, maybe that's just me. That felt funky to me though. I was not a fan of that. So he crashes her party. There was a vase, a blue vase overflowing with wild blooms in the center of the table. Nash brought them. Naomi said. I wanted to smack the smug look of satisfaction right off my brother's face. So what? He brought a girl flowers and I could barely get her to say 2 words to me. He should know better than to challenge me like that. I played dirty. Even when I didn't care about winning, I just wanted Nash to lose. Okay. We are not going to unpack that one because I feel like we can all do that ourselves. Naomi hosted this wonderful potluck with all of the neighbors and all of these people to try and blend in with the community and help Waylay fit in and have a fresh start. She goes inside after a little while. After some of the banter, she goes, I think she was getting like a drink or refilling or something, and Knox follows her inside and chastises her for having this party. And on her desk that she has in the office, she has a little to-do list, and it's talking about a back to school to-do list, which includes getting Way new clothes, and then there's some information about money and banking information. She says to stay out of my business, and he says, you don't have to do it alone. There's nothing wrong with accepting a little help now and then. I don't need help, I need time. Salone mentioned that she might have a part-time job opening up at the library when school starts. I can save up and get a car, I can make this work, I just need time. You want extra shifts at Honky Tonk? Say the word. This is from a man who called me an uppity, needy pain in the ass and tried to fire me on the spot. Forgive me if I don't ask you for anything. Oh, come on, Naomi, I was pissed off. And? And what? I said some shit because I was pissed off. You weren't supposed to hear it. It's not my fault that you were eavesdropping on a private conversation. You yelled 2 seconds after I walked out of the door. You can't just do that. Words have power. They make people feel things. So stop feeling things and let's move on. That might be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Doubt that. You grew up with Tina. I did grow up with Tina. I was 9 when I overheard her telling my best friend that they should play without me because I was too snobby to have any fun. And I was 14 when she kissed the boy that I liked and told me I was too needy for him or anyone to ever like me. Then came along Knox Morgan, who doesn't want me around because despite my defective personality and being uppity and needy, you still managed to be attracted to my body. Look, Daisy, it's nothing personal, except it is deeply personal. Put a lot of thought into being pissed off about this, haven't you? Go screw yourself, Knox. As she says this, somebody knocks at the door. Knocks. And as they do, she jumps and she spills wine on her shirt and she's like kind of freaking out about it. A woman in the doorway asks if she's interrupting something. Naomi's flustered. She's trying to clean this wine off of her shirt after knowing that this stranger just heard her yell at a man. Who is this stranger, you ask? Yolanda Suarez with Child Protective Services. What? What? This will come up a couple of times in this book where it's like every single time that Naomi and Knox have a fight, the Child Protective Services woman just shows up. And I'm like, hey, bestie, I don't know if you need a brighter, like, flashier sign from God. I'm not even religious, but if that shit happened to me, I think I would start believing. Like, a sign from the universe of just like, hey, not the guy, not the one, this is a problem. As we go into the next chapter, Naomi's freaking out because she feels like she just made this horrible impression on the social worker and super worried about it, and promises herself that she is going to be the best kinship guardian that North Virginia has ever seen. So she borrows Liza's car the next morning to go and sell her wedding dress so that she'll have money to buy everything for Waylay. Once she does, when she comes home, they get settled. She tells Waylay about the plans. They go to borrow Liza's car again to go to the mall, and Knox shows up and he says, hey, not going to be able to use her car anymore. Sorry, I'll go ahead and drive you guys though. So once they get to the mall, Naomi says, thanks for the ride. Deuces, we'll see you later. And he gets out of the truck. She's all, what are you doing? He says he needed to get some stuff too. So he follows them around and we ball, like buying absolutely everything that Waylay even glances at. And objectively, this is a very, very cute moment in the book where he is absolutely spoiling Waylay rotten, giving her all this feedback and being such a supportive cutie patootie stepfather role. You know what I mean? I like, that's the goal here, and it was executed very well. However, he's still a controlling douchebag, and the only reason he's doing this is to make up for his outburst at a party he wasn't invited to that had a horrible impact on the guardianship stuff, right? Or the kinship stuff. This isn't from the kindness of his heart. This is him trying to win Naomi back after he did something shitty. Let's be real about what is happening right now. Eventually, after shopping around for everything for Way, they run into one of her friends. Knox gives them $20 and sends them to the arcade. While the kids are at the arcade, he and Naomi go to Victoria's Secret because Naomi also needs stuff. Again, her shit was stolen. She has nothing. So as they're going through Victoria's Secret, and he's stalking around all grumpy and eventually is like picking out underwear for her and forcibly buying her stuff that he chose. And here is what 12,000 of you sickos at the time that I took this note, so it's probably at like 15,000 by now, if not more than that, of you little sicko perverts highlighted. They're in the checkout line and he's like all up on her and he whispers in her ear, if this is what it takes to get out of this fucking store without passing out from a goddamn hard-on, I'm buying you the fucking underwear. Because she was obviously pushing back the whole time about how she'll buy it herself and she'll take care of it and telling him to get away and he's not welcome in a store like this and everyone's staring and it's super awkward, and that was his response. They have one more stop. He surprises her with a cell phone. They go into AT&T or Verizon or whatever and the people just give him a phone. It's for Naomi. She's very taken aback by this, very flattered, very appreciative of it. However, it is on his plan. You're telling me you're a millionaire and you couldn't buy this woman her own phone plan? You couldn't like prepay for a year of her own phone plan or just like buy it outright and give her a little phone bill a month or whatever? Like this is, okay. That's weird. It comes up later, like her being on his phone plan. It is relevant to the story and whatever. I don't really give a shit. And it's not attractive and it's not sexy when his act of spoiling you is also a like tertiary act of control, right? Like, yes, it's a gift and yes, it's so cool and yes, she needed it. However, this is now giving him the ability to control her or at least be aware of her whereabouts and these other things and control her life in these other aspects that you don't think of immediately, right? And that maybe the repercussions of her being on his phone plan isn't immediately thought about, but it comes up later in the fucking story. So that's the end of that chapter. She gets a phone and underwear, and Waylay gets a whole new school wardrobe, and it's very, very cute, and I love it, but it's stupid. Very end of the last chapter, there's insinuation that there's a guy lurking around town that is looking for her, and there's this weird tense moment where you think that it's going to be Warner, and it's not. It's actually her best friend, Steph. So when they drive back to the cottage, Steph is waiting on the steps of her cottage to meet up with her. She jumps out of the truck and runs up to him and like jumps in his arms to hug him. And Knox storms off, like he like pretty much kicks Waylay out of the car and then has all of their stuff in the truck and then hops back in as if he's gonna peel out and like storm off with it in his truck. A huge tantrum, but also he lives down the hill. What are we doing? You're gonna throw a tantrum. You're gonna whip it out on this gravel driveway. I'm assuming it's gravel. You're just gonna freaking whip it and fishtail it down the quarter mile to your house. That's embarrassing. So Naomi calls him out and she's like, hey, like, let us get our stuff. Like, what is happening right now? So she does. They make it inside and she makes a very subtle comment about her closet door being open. But she chalks it up to just living with another human, and maybe Waylay opened it at some point. So she goes outside and she talks about life with Steph, and they get all caught up on things, and 32,000 people highlighted this conversation with Steph. He has quite a few quotes that are highlighted from people. Very popular man. He has very good advice. He's like the sound voice of reason in this story. He says, "You're the one who has to live your life. Don't apologize to other people for the decisions you make for yourself." He also, the next morning, goes and knocks on Knox's door super early in the morning to talk to him. Brings him coffee though, as like an olive branch, but then threatens him to treat Naomi right. And they talk about Warner and how they're going to protect her from Warner, and if he shows up in town, which he inevitably will, Steph says, what they're going to do about it. They discuss Naomi's financials, and Steph is going to try to set it up to get her old house back in New York sold so that she'll have a good amount of money to take care of things. And Knox mentions the grants for the library so that she'll have a part-time job, and they have a plan going forward for Naomi and how they're going to help support her to get there. And they come to an agreement to protect her, which is very nice, I guess. We're going into chapter 18, makeovers for everyone. This is from Naomi's perspective. With Steph back in town, he says, life is so stressful. Let's all go get makeovers, get some haircuts, figure life out. So they all go to the Whiskey Clipper, and Jeremiah is cutting Naomi's hair. He gets a little flirty with Steph, which is pretty cute. They end up together ultimately, so I will spoil that one for you now. So there's a little bit of tension happening there. Knox is cutting some other guy's hair on the, so they're facing like this way at the mirrors, and then they're on this side. So Naomi, Steph, and Jeremiah are over here. Knox and some rando are over here, and then Waylay is getting her hair cut by Stasia, maybe, as they're going through this. And Naomi cuts her hair pretty short, I'm assuming like mine, and gets it lightened. And Waylay decides to dye her hair blue. Stasia asks, how blue? Like Smurfette blue? Waylay, being 11, has no idea who Smurfette is. So they pull up a picture and they show her Smurfette, which I'll put up a picture in case you don't know who that is either. She has very long blonde hair. Waylay says, I wish my hair was as long as hers. And Stasia says, you cut it pretty short before you came in here, but it'll grow. Waylay was silent a moment. I craned my neck for a glimpse of her in the mirror. I didn't cut it, she said, eyes meeting mine. I didn't cut it, my mom did, as a punishment. She couldn't ground me because she was never around, so she topped off my hair. Knox gets irate. You know that was a move, right? What your mom did was born out of a place of unhappiness and meanness inside of her. It had nothing to do with you. You didn't cause it or deserve it. She was just an asshole. I don't know why your mom does the things that she does. I don't really want to know. Some things broke inside of her, and it makes her treat others like shit. You got it? Your Aunt Naomi over there isn't like that. She's not broken. She'll probably still f up now and then, but that's just because she's human, not broken. Which is why when you mess up, and you will, because you're human too, there has to be a consequence. But it won't be cutting your hair. It'll be something stupid like taking away the TV. So this is the part in Lucy Score's books where you get like 100, 200 pages in, and all of a sudden you're forced to like the guy. There's this internal character shift that is not acknowledged publicly or apologized for or anything, but there is a sudden like jerk in character where the guy just becomes nice. This happens again in a couple of her books that I've read. I'm not gonna like the man after him being a D-bag for 200 pages. And just because he's nice to a 12-year-old girl or 11-year-old girl does not make him nice to Naomi, and that does not make him a good romantic partner. He is still a horrible person. And we go into the next chapter. High stakes. From Naomi's perspective again. Naomi goes to work. And she goes to work in the private room. I guess there's a room in the back where there's some illegal poker going on. Super illegal, obviously, but very lucrative. All kinds of money to be made in tips. So the bartenders and everybody has her take that room so she can, I don't know, again, fund taking care of a child and make up for her situation that she's in. And so we get introduced to a slew of underbelly world people, but there's only one who matters for the sake of the story, and that's Lucien. He's a longtime childhood friend of Nash and Knox. And we also meet Grim, who has a motorcycle club in DC. There's a handful of others, but literally none of them ever get talked about again. She's back there, minding her business, taking care of these people. Knox finds out that she's back there, storms there, of course, because God forbid this man have a normal reaction to anything, and freaks out about her wearing a too short denim skirt. They have some back and forth, and he tells her how dangerous those people are. The next exchange happens, and it is so sad. Like, so many of these just make me sad. This story is just sad. He's telling her that she needs to be careful about these people because they're really dangerous, and she doesn't listen, and she's gonna get herself hurt. Carefully, I turn to face him, not quite managing to cover up the flinch when my breasts brushed his chest. His nostrils flared, and my heart rate picked up. I've had no problems at that table, and I'm willing to bet that if it were Fee or Silver or Max on that party, you wouldn't be having this conversation. They know how to handle trouble. And I don't. Baby, you showed up in talent in a f***ing wedding dress with flowers in your hair. You scream into pillows when you get stressed out. That doesn't mean that I can't handle myself. He put a hand on the door behind me and leaned into the last bit of my space. You need a goddamn keeper. I'm not some helpless damsel in distress, Knox. Really? Where would you be if it wasn't me who found you in the cafe? Staying in Tina's whole trailer with Way? No job? No car? No phone? I was getting very close to whacking him over the head with my tray. You caught me on a bad day. Bad day? F me, Naomi. If I didn't drive your ass to the goddamn mall, you still wouldn't have a cell phone. Like it or not, you need someone watching over you because you're too damn stubborn to do it yourself. You're too busy trying to take care of everyone else to bother with yourself. His chest was pressing up against mine, and I was having trouble focusing on the fury that rose in my throat. Hot, hard muscles. Oh my God. Hot, hard muscles against soft flesh. His proximity made me feel drunk. You're not kissing me, I insisted. In hindsight, the warning was a tad presumptuous, since he'd never kissed me before, but to be fair, he really looked like he wanted to kiss me. I'd rather wring your pretty little neck right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'd rather wring your pretty little neck right now, he said, eyes narrowing at my mouth. I licked my lips, preparing to definitely not kiss him. The low rumble in his chest vibrated through my body as he dipped his head toward mine. A new vibration interrupted us. Fuck, he hissed, yanking his phone out of his pocket. What? He listened, and then he let out a string of colorful curses. Don't let him pass the bar. I'll be out in a second. What's wrong? I asked. See, that right there is your problem, he said, pointing a finger in my face as he yanked the door open. What? You're suddenly too worried about me to watch your own ass while you're serving a table full of criminals. Has anyone ever told you that you're ridiculously dramatic? I asked as he hauled me out. He was texting with his free hand. What does that mean, hauled her out? So are we grabbing her arm again? Are we grabbing her arm and pulling her somewhere again? Because that's how I'm reading that. He hauled me out. He was texting with his free hand. Where the fuck is his other hand? So we go into the next chapter. A winning hand from Knox's perspective. Nash shows up to the bar. Knox sends Naomi out there to distract him because, again, they're doing some illegal shit in this back room. He calls Knox out for being weird about Naomi. And then Lucien comes out from the poker game to catch up with Nash and Knox. Nash and Knox. And Lucien tells the brothers that the drama between them's stupid and informs Naomi that it's been festering for like 2 years now. And when Nash goes to leave, he gives Knox an update on Tina. He says that she's in some deep shit and that she's been spotted around town and they think that she'll be around again soon. While Nash and Knox are having this conversation, Naomi's in the back managing this table and she's learning to play poker. She wins $22,000. Knox tries to get her out of there. She doesn't want the money. She's like, sorry guys, like I was just having fun. Like, thank you so much for teaching me. Bye. And they said, no, it's beginner's luck. Like, you keep it. And like kind of pushed it toward her. You want it fair and square. Take your $22,000. She's so happy, so relieved, so thankful because, again, life-changing money for her. Life-changing money for a lot of people, for everybody, to be honest. Like, oh my God, the way that would change things. He's a dick about it. Because, of course, he's a dick about it. Because that's who Knox is. I waited until they'd cashed out and exited the room, leaving Naomi and me alone. She looked up from the pile of cash they'd left in front of her. It was one hell of a tip. Can we leave the lecture for tomorrow so I can just enjoy? Fine, I said through gritted teeth, but I'm driving you home tonight. Fine, but you're not allowed to yell at me on the drive. I can't make any promises. So she finally has money. She finally has such a good amount of money to go and buy a used car, make sure Whaley's taken care of, you know, make sure the cottage and stuff is paid for quite a while, and all these like really, really good things. And she was so excited until that's what she has to worry about. You go from like her finally being on this high of everything being fixed and taken care of to worrying about your situationship yelling at you on the way home. Dude, that's not romantic. And in my notes, I say the following, and I say it again later, and I will reiterate this multiple times throughout this book, okay? A man who helps you, but then holds it over your head is not romantic. It's not okay. None of this exchange is okay. But because it's sandwiched between saying how much she wants him and how hot he is and how much he's a millionaire and he's protective because he cares, we let it pass and we call it hot. If a man helps you and then holds it against you, it's not help. Love does not keep score. You do good things for people, or you do helpful things for people because you love them. You do not ever hold that against them or bring it up, because then it was not out of the goodness of your heart and it was not done with love. After completely belittling her and taking back every ounce of goodness that he's had in this entire book, and then her just asking to not be yelled at so she can enjoy winning $22,000, she goes back out to the bar. She spots Salone, the librarian, finds out they got the grant, so she'll be able to have a part-time job at the library and finally make at least some money that is not directly attributable to this horrible man. As she is recovering from this good news, she's going to the bar to get drinks for Salone and the two other librarian people, grant people, to celebrate. She runs into Lucien on the dance floor. She owes him a dance because that was part of the taking the $22,000 home thing. They have a little slow dance going on, and he expresses that he's concerned about her reigniting the feud between the brothers. She asks what the feud is about, and also says that she's definitely not interested in Knox at all because he's an ass and can't stand her. As they're going back and forth about this, Salone walks up and sees Lucien, and there's a bunch of cursing and very awkward tenseness. And to be honest, it's just a setup for the third book in the series, because Salone and Lucien had a thing when they were kids. They ended without any explanation, and nobody knows what happened between them, or like if they were ever really together or what the story is. I've never read the book, so I can't attest to that. But hey, self-promo if you want me to. I will definitely read these next two books for y'all. So as they're doing this, Naomi gets a phone call from Steph, and he says Nash got shot, and they don't know if he's going to pull through. She's like, oh, fuck. So she turns to Knox to try and find him in the bar and tell him what's going on. He spots her from across the room. He sees that she's freaking out, and he comes running over, and he's like, what's wrong, babe? As he does, two cops bust through the door of Honky Tonk to tell him that his brother is shot. He runs off with them to take him to the hospital to go and see if his brother's going to pull through or not, and to try and say goodbye to him if needed. Naomi, after finishing her shift, takes his truck to the hospital because she's a supportive, wonderful woman who deserves nothing but the best in the world, even though she's cringy and I hate her. She brings his truck to the hospital and goes up to go and visit him and bring him coffee. And he's continually telling her that he does not want her there, that she just needs to leave and to not touch him. And she ignores him and she hugs him, which leads to this quote that 17,000 people highlighted. Why don't you ever fucking listen? Because sometimes people don't know how to ask for what they really need. You needed a hug. No, I didn't. I needed you. What? My own breath tripped in my throat. I tried to pull back to look it up and what? I tried to pull back to look it up. Hello? Am I okay? I tried to look back to look it up. I tried to pull back to look up at him, but he held me where I was. He tells her that Nash is out of surgery, but he can't see him until he wakes up, and she asks what their big fight was about, because Lucien did not tell her. And long story short, he won the lottery and tried to force the money down Nash's throat, and Nash said, "Fuck off, I just want my brother. I literally don't need anything else from you You've been a great brother, and all I need is that. And Knox kept forcing it on him because it was under Knox's impression that he would give this money to all of his family and everybody would be happy. And that if he gave $3 million to Nash, that Nash would quit being a cop and stop working a high-risk job and just go and be happy somewhere. Nash eventually accepted the money because Knox is very persistent. But when he accepted the money, he did not use it for himself. He donated it to the Knock 'em Out Police Department. Hence why we have Knox Morgan Municipal Building. So because Nash gave the money to the cops, Knox had this personal vendetta of like, what the fuck, dude? Why would you do that? Because not only did you not take this to quit being a cop, but you funded a police force that has always held something against us. While they were growing up, the cops were super douchebags and had it out for Lucian, I guess specifically, and just not cool, like just bad vibes all around. And so he was very, very upset that not only would his brother not get out of a dangerous job, but that his brother would fund crappy people. And Naomi's response is, your brother's the literal police chief now. Like, don't you think he got rid of those people or corrected that behavior? Like, do you even know if those people are still cops? To which Knox does not know that, and Knox has no idea what's going on, but he assumes, like, he's like, I guess all those guys retired by now, or, you know, Nash corrected them. And she's like, y'all are f***ing stupid. And the nurse comes out, and Nash had woken up. And so before Naomi leaves, so that the brothers can see each other, Knox says thank you, and he kisses her. You're telling me it took 230 pages for these people to smooch? So sorry, bestie, I had to change. Chapter 22 is called One Hatchet, Two Bullets, from Knox's perspective. The brothers talk, and Nash denies how much pain that he's in, and they talk about Naomi and how Knox is going to pursue her. He finally says it out loud to his brother that he actually likes this woman, and like he thinks he wants to like have a relationship with her. They again have a good human moment, and they talk about why Nash didn't take the money, which is what I just told you about. So Knox leaves the hospital feeling, again, hatchet buried. Nash had gotten shot twice. That's the two bullets part of it. He got shot in the chest and in the shoulder. Not doing hot at all. Like, long time recovery, horrible for a cop to have. Like, not, like, he'll pull through and stuff, but it's going to be a while before he can actually be on the force and be, like, a productive member. So Knox leaves the hospital, and Lucian is waiting outside for him. And Lucian says he's going to use his underbelly bad contacts to figure out what's going on. And again, there's more filler pages and setting up Lucian's relationship with Salone for the third book. Just a waste of time. 23 chapters titled Knox Knox Who's There, from Naomi's perspective, because Naomi wakes up to Knox knocking on again. He asks how Waylay's first day of school was, because her first day of school was that morning. Naomi is all impressed that he remembered this, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. But he is very frustrated, like very pent up emotion, and so he's like pacing around the house. 239 pages, 43% of the way through this book. Immediately after their very first kiss, they hook up. And I'm not going to detail this, but what I will say is that from this point forward, the word milk is used 4 times in these sorts of scenes. And because of that, I got to read my favorite book review ever from Lexi, aka Newly Nova, where her review of this book says, 2 stars. Please stop talking about how she's milking you. Please, I have a family. I'm begging you. Hashtag, ladies, we can do better. Hashtag made me sigh. Hashtag Rex from Liars. So after they have this exchange, ew, oh my god, after they have this scene, they take a nap. She wakes up first, and she's watching him, and she's reflecting on what just happened, and she says the most relatable thing ever. She says, there it is again, my old friend, abject panic. Which again, hey bestie, if like that's your thought immediately after like with a guy, maybe you should do some self-reflection. Maybe that's another sign from the universe. Then to her horror, her parents show up on her doorstep. So she's downstairs, she's like half naked, Knox is upstairs in his boxers, and she's like, oh my god. So there's a mile-a-minute conversation between her and her parents where they're like, oh my god, are you depressed? Like, you're in your pajamas? Like, they're freaking out about all this stuff, and she's like, oh my god, when did you get here? How did you know where I was? We talked to Steph. As they're having all this freak out, Knox wakes up. he comes down the stairs, again, in his boxers. Obviously, a very awkward exchange happens as Naomi's freaking out about introducing them and explaining why he's in his boxers. But then Knox, surprisingly, leans into a fake relationship bit to appease her parents and get them off of her back. And he even says that he'll talk to Liza so that they can stay at the lodge and they don't have to stay in the shitty motel in town. And Naomi says, hold up, bestie, let's go step outside and have a conversation really quick. They come out there. His first comment to her, you're welcome, you fucking owe me days. Do you have any idea what this is going to do to my bachelor reputation? I don't care about your reputation. I'm the one who has to pass a home study. Besides, I'm tired of owing you. Why do you keep riding to my rescue? Maybe I like being the hero for once. No, you fucking don't if you hold it against people. You don't like helping people if you make them feel guilty for it. You don't like helping people if you use that to, like, make them owe you things, dude. Oh my god. I don't care about any tragic backstory or millionaire justification that is going into making this behavior okay, because there's no excuse for it. This is such a crappy way to talk to human beings, dude. Why are we doing this? 700,000 people, almost 800,000 people commented on this thing or like rated it on Goodreads. You touched that many people and that's the story that you want to go with? Like, that's the narrative that you want to sell to young women and people that are reading this book? You can miss me with that. That's so irritating. In my notes, though, to wrap up this chapter, I said, I really thought that we would have gotten over this. The first kiss, you know, them having relations, him talking to his brother and finally admitting that he wants to pursue her. Like, what else do you want? What else do you want? I don't understand. As they're arguing, though, guess who walks up because they missed a signature on the paperwork? None other than Child Protective Services agent Yolanda Suarez. And yet again, as if God in the universe could not have a more neon flashing sign in her face that this is not a good relationship, Naomi, rightfully so, is freaking out even more about everything. And now about having to do this whole fake relationship thing also in front of her parents and take care of a kid. Chapter 25 is called Family Fuss, another filler chapter where, you know, the brothers are visiting at the hospital, and then there's a huge party that night at the lodge to welcome Naomi's parents and then celebrate Waylay's first day of school, and so that Waylay can finally meet her grandparents, because they too had no idea that she existed. So in the middle of this, the only really cute thing that comes out of it is Knox makes a note that maybe not all change was bad. Naomi had been deep cleaning the place, music was playing, you could hear voices in other rooms, and lights were being turned on, and windows were open that hadn't been opened in years. The other thing that happens is that he and Steph are talking a bit, and Steph was able to sell Naomi's house, so she is going to have that big lump sum of money to be able to go toward things. And there's just general family banter and like hangout times, and it's very cute and cozy and immersive. And back to what I had said earlier about this part of the book just feeling like Lucy's trying to force me to like this man. Amanda, Naomi's mom, pulls Knox to the side and says how she just lights up around him, and she's so happy that she found Knox because Naomi finally has somebody that, you know, genuinely takes care of her, because she never had that with Warner, and, you know, she's always looking out for other people, and I'm so happy that you found my daughter, and she's so lucky to have you, even though you're an abusive piece of shit. So, this is another red flag part that I would like to bring up to all of my friends that are listening to this video. A man who is nice to the waiter, but not nice to you, is still a douchebag. Your family might not see it, your friends might not see it, his coworkers might not see it. That doesn't matter. If a man is abusive to you, or a person is abusive to you, I don't give a shit what anybody else says, or if anybody else sees it or believes it or hears it, anything. Okay, the type of people who have this level of like manipulation are great actors, and you just see the real side of them. Don't let anybody convince you that what you're going through is not valid or that it did not happen. I'm saying that I see you, and if you're going through it, you are so strong, and I believe in you, and I'll have resources in the description box below if any of this behavior resonates with you, because it's not okay and it's not normal. So we go from this perspective of Naomi's mom, you know, endorsing him and being like, you're such a good guy, to now Naomi goes to work and all of her coworkers at the bar are also saying how much of a great guy he is, because they're all on their periods. And I know what you're thinking, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Well, we are going to descend into some cringe territory. All of the bar workers have their periods at the same time of the month, and it is no shit referred to as Shark Week, Red Tide, Code Red, riding the cotton pony. In this chapter uses the term lady canal. So Knox, being the understanding, caring man that he is, who just loves women so much, gives them a monthly care package to cope with their periods. So the rest of this chapter is just the girls gossiping about Naomi and Knox having sex and eating the brownies that he provided and complaining about periods and PMS thing and how horrible it is. Which it is, obviously, hey man, I'm a woman, I get it, periods suck, but it almost felt like it was written by a man. You know what I mean? This whole chapter felt like this is what a man would think that women want to hear about their periods. I do not fucking believe for a second that a woman actually wrote this chapter. It was so a caricature and cheesy and stupid, and I hated it. And again, I think it was trying to force me to like Knox more, but it just made me do that face the whole time. I was like, oh my god. So in the middle of this cringe fest, Naomi gets a text message from Salone that Chloe, her niece, told her that the teacher, they started school a couple days ago, and the teacher has been yelling at Way and being mean to her in front of the entire class. So Naomi goes all mama bear mode and rushes over to the school to confront said teacher. And as she storms into the classroom, she sees a little something out of the corner of her eye. We're left on a cliffhanger as we go into Knox's chapter called Field Mice Revenge. Can you guess what happens in this chapter? Because, again, I don't know if Lucy just can't think of creative names for chapters. I'm not sure why she would even choose to give these chapters names, because it just gives the story away. What are we doing? Either get a more creative, nuanced chapter title, or just say chapter 27 Knox. No one's forcing you to give it a title. I don't understand. So Knox heads to the bar to try and find Naomi. There's more period talk and banter with the women, and they tell him that she went to the school to go and see Miss Felch. Turns out Tina had done stuff with her husband. So Mrs. Felch has it out for Waylay because she is an immature, cringy woman who takes her marital problems out on an 11-year-old girl who has no control over adult actions. Naomi's parents also pull up to the bar at the same time to figure out hey, Waylay didn't come home from school. So Knox hops in the car. They all go over to the school to try and find Naomi and Waylay, assuming that they're both there. They rush in, right? Because they hear yelling. They hear Naomi and this teacher yelling back and forth to each other, and as the teacher is saying that Tina ruined her life and they have her blood, so they're all just as bad and they're all whores. All this stupid shit. She tells her grandparent or her parents and Knox to form a wall because Waylay is hiding under a coat rack. And so Waylay has to army crawl behind this wall of grown-ups to escape, because Waylay was going to release field mice in the classroom to torment the teacher, and then while the teacher was freaking out about it, she was going to get onto her computer and upload some malware of some sort. They're leaving the school, and Knox is the one that gives the parental speech about hey kid, we love you, and if you have problems you need to express it to us, and we'll come to your rescue and we always support you. And yet again, while I love the fact that we are giving support to a young girl who obviously needs it, I don't want to hear it from Knox. I am getting beaten over the head, beaten to a bloody pulp with how much I'm supposed to like this man and how truly caring and loving he is over the last 30 pages. In my notes, I end the chapter, and I say, but of course, this chapter wouldn't be complete without Naomi being cringy. I need to skip ahead to the chapter on discipline in my library book. Damn it, I hate reading out of chronological order. She says that out loud. Okay. Knox is going to take Naomi back to work, and instead they make a pit stop to go to some wooded area as he's taking her out to the abandoned field to do stuff in his truck, which again, he's 40 and she's in her late 20s. I'm not hey man, I get it, get it where you can, but you're both adults and you're a literal millionaire and you're doing stuff in a truck. But she says, you can't be serious, I have work. Baby, I don't joke about sex, and besides, you work for me. Yeah, in your bar, which is full of PMSing women waiting for their pretzels. She was supposed to get them pretzels before she came back from the school. I guess the pretzels place like right next to the school. I don't know. Everyone in town knows it's a code red. It'll be a slow night. I am really uncomfortable with the idea that an entire town is tracking its women's menstrual cycles. Hey, we're just normalizing period shit. Now get your sex ass over here. This is on the New York Times bestseller list. Lucy Score got a deal with, I believe, Amazon to develop a TV series based off of this, or a movie or something. She got a deal with a producer thing. I said, again, I hate these, so I'm not going to go any more detail about it other than highlight some notable words that are used in this scene. Wet Wonderland, milk, and then Knox uses the word rhapsodizing, like Bohemian Rhapsody rhapsodizing, which I've never heard that word outside of that song. So it means speak or write about someone or something with great enthusiasm, which is cool. Lucy Score will randomly put in these like really big words for no reason that just feel so out of place. And then the other word that was used almost immediately after rhapsodizing was hot, tight channel. Balance, my friends. Balance. So they go to work. Eventually they get off of work and they go over to Knox's house because it's late and there's back and forth about how exhausted they are. And Knox keeps calling her baby all of a sudden, like incessantly. Every single sentence he says baby, which is very... I noticed it, like I noticed the immediate change, which made me cringe. He tells her that he's never had a woman at the house before, and they have some back and forth brushing their teeth together, and she goes to lay in his bed, but that part of the bed smells like the dog, and so he trades pillows with her. And then in the morning he offers to go and pick up her clothes for her so that she can sleep in a little bit, and he'll make sure that he wakes up with her even though it's really early in the morning because he wants to spend time with her. And it's very cute, and it's a very good depiction of what a healthy relationship is, and that's why I enjoyed it. However, I am not going to give any credit to this asshole. As he goes in the morning to run up to her cottage to go and pick her up some clothes, though, he notices that the door is unlocked. And so he gets her stuff, and then when he goes back, he lectures her about needing to lock up the house. She shrugs and she says, I always lock up the house. I lock it up every time that I leave, every single night. And he says, well, obviously not. So you need to work on that. And then they move on. So after that weird note about the house miraculously or mysteriously being unlocked, they go and have the Breakfast of Shame, chapter 30 from Naomi's perspective, another filler chapter where they just go and have breakfast with the family at the lodge. More cute family dynamic stuff. Nash is coming home, and Naomi's parents go into caretaker mode and talking about how they're going to go and clean it up for him and throw away all of his groceries because they're sure some of them went bad by now, and they're going to make him a bunch of food and have a welcoming home party, which is so wholesome, very loving, very cute. I love that. Chapter 31, Shifty in the Stacks from Naomi's perspective. Waylay's teacher quit. Naomi pretty much gave her a ultimatum. She's like, yeah, either get your shit together or quit. I will take this to the school board. I will get you fired. Your decision on what to do. So she ends up quitting. Nash goes back to working desk duty at the station, and the social worker scheduled a home study. Everything's kind of moving and chugging along, and everybody's getting to a good groove and getting settled. 31 chapters into the book. Oh my god, took long enough. And Naomi has started the job at the library, and things are finally settling down. But Warner keeps sending her emails, like more and more aggressive emails about how much he misses her, and she's proved her point and she needs to come home. And she's working at the library. The following exchange happens. Also, don't judge my southern man voice. This is how I have to differentiate between characters. Please just go with it. I was just finishing up taking notes on the chapter on puberty in my latest parenting book when someone cleared their throat. Excuse me, I was wondering if you could help me? He had hard green eyes and short, spiky red hair. Tattoos peeked out from the back of his hands from the sleeves of his white button-down. He had a sheepish smile, an expensive-looking watch, and a gold chain around his neck. There was something strange about the way that he was looking at me. Not that it was unusual. Anyone who had the misfortune of meeting Tina generally needed a while to adjust to the whole twin thing. How can I help? I'm looking for someone that could do a light little tech support. This darn thing stopped recognizing my wireless mouse and reading flash drives. Know anyone who could help? Well, it definitely wouldn't be me. Me either. My wife's usually my go-to for stuff like this, but she's on a business trip and I can't wait until she gets back. I just need someone to help me out. They don't even have to be a professional or anything. I'd even be willing to pay a kid. something was off. Maybe I was just hungry, or maybe my code red was coming. Oh my god. Maybe my code red was coming up, or maybe this guy stomped litters of kittens. Oh my god, for a hobby. Oh my god. Okay, I'll start over. Or maybe my code red was coming up, or maybe this guy stomped litters of kittens for a hobby and my kinship guardian intuition was reacting. The only person I knew who fit the bill was Waylay, and I wasn't about to let someone who gave me the heebie-jeebies anywhere near her. I flashed him a smile a few degrees warmer than perfunctory. Perfunctory? Gosh, you know what? I'm new in town and I'm just getting my bearings and I don't know anyone off the top of my head. But if you give me your number or email, I'll reach out as soon as I can, as soon as I find a resource. You know what? That'd be great. You got a pen? Relieved, I pushed a knock-em-out public library notepad across the desk to him and held out a pen. Here you go. Our fingers brushed when he took it, and he held my gaze for a beat too long. Then he smiled again, bent to scrawl the number on the pad. Name's Flint, he said, tapping the pen over his name for emphasis. His eyes skimmed over my name tag. Naomi. I did not like the way that he said my name, as if he knew me, as if he were already intimately familiar with me. I'm sure I'll be able to find someone to help. He nodded. Great, sooner the better. Flint picked up the laptop and gave me a once-over. He tossed me a salute. I watched him stroll to the stairs. It took me an entire minute to figure out what was bothering me. It was his hands. Specifically his left hand, which hadn't sported a wedding ring. I was just being paranoid. Or maybe it was a sign I was getting better at the Guardian thing. I brushed off the encounter aside and headed to my tiny office to add local IT support to the running list of questions that I had for Sloan. So yeah, really awkward exchange with this weird, creepy redhead guy, right? Weird. As she's accepting this, she looks up and knocks us in the doorway and scares the ever-loving shit out of her. You didn't pick up on the creepy guy talking to your girl? You want to stalk this woman and you do all this shit and like you didn't pick up on the creepy guy talking to her? You show up in a doorway, you had to have walked past him. You had to have seen him in the freaking parking lot. Nothing? Just saying, dude, if you want to be an overprotective asshole, you gotta pick up on the creepy men. You can't do one and not the other. You gotta have both. So why is Knox there, you ask? Why is he being a creepy gargoyle? He picks her up to have lunch. He packed her peanut butter and jelly and some chips and a blanket for the place where they had the before, but he insists that it's not a picnic, but they are going to go there again. And then Naomi kind of has a break. She says, hey, this doesn't feel like pretending anymore. Like, this feels a little bit too real, and I don't know what we're doing, but this doesn't feel like pretend. This is a lot. And he says, just enjoy the moment. Let's not think about what's next. I don't know what this is either. We're enjoying it. Let's keep having fun. As they're having this conversation, his brother Nash calls. Nash has information about Tina, so their lunch plans get ruined and they head over to Nash's apartment. When they show up, he's shirtless, of course, because he's gotta dig at his brother, and he's holding some gauze and some tape, and Naomi offers to help him rebandage his wounds. Knox is obviously pissed off about this because God forbid, but also Nash gives him a little sly smile, like that was kind of his plan. He says, it's not pretty, Naomi. Wounds never are. That's what first aid is for. You're not gonna faint, are you? She stuck her tongue out at me. I'll have you know, I have extensive first aid training. A few years ago, I came across the scene of a car accident. It was late at night, raining. A deer had run out in front of the driver and he swerved to miss it. He hit a tree head on. There was blood everywhere. He was in so much pain that all I could do was dial 911 and hold his hand. I'd never felt more helpless in my entire life. So you took a class? Nash guessed as she eased the gauze away from the wound. I took 3 classes. I too would do the same. These are the parts that make me love Naomi. Her honey mustard packet preparations, her taking first aid classes, you know, as frustrating as it is that she took on Waylay, like the taking on of other people and to help them, I admire greatly and I really, really respect it and relate to it and find it cool. However, it gets used against her and she gets taken advantage of because of these feelings or because of this sense of self that she has, and it makes it hard to like her because you see her being taken advantage of and you're like, how do you keep falling for this? Like, oh my god, you're just being stupid. It's so hard to read and it just keeps getting worse. But anyway, turns out that the trailer park landlord, he owns a storage unit. The trailer park landlord that owned Tina's place, right? Tracking? He owns a storage unit and an office. they had gotten broken into by Tina. Her fingerprints were found all over the place, and it's a small town, so everybody, Nash in particular, is like, well, how did nobody see her? Like, how did people not see her running around? And so they pull up some tapes and they show the video, and she had cut her hair to look like Naomi's. So they had, I think, different colored hair, and then Tina's was longer. So Tina dyed it dark and got it cut to match Naomi's hair. So people, obviously, at first glance, just assume that it's Naomi. And also, Tina was wearing one of her dresses. Apparently, this is something that she did a lot growing up, so Naomi is not surprised whatsoever. But Knox realizes that he's seen Naomi wear this dress before, because do you remember earlier when I mentioned after they went to the pizza parlor that the girls had walked by and Naomi and Nash had that weird, not Naomi and Nash, Naomi and Knox had that weird, like, I don't know what to call it, but they had like a weird tension happening. She was wearing that dress that day. So Knox realizes this dress was not stolen from the motel, it was stolen from the cottage, and that Naomi didn't say anything. And so Knox, for the one time in the entire book where he is justified, he is pissed. He says, she broke into your place and you weren't going to say a fucking word. She looked up as I rounded the island. She held up her hands, but I kept coming until her palms were pressed up against my chest. You do not keep like that from me, Naomi. You owe her nothing. You can't live your whole life protecting people who don't fucking deserve it, not when it puts your safety at risk. What were you thinking? You have way. If Tina and some low-life criminal buddy are breaking into your fucking house and you don't cover that shit up, you don't protect the bad guy, you protect the kid. You saw the motel room and you heard what Nash said. The storage unit was trashed. That's what my sister does. She destroys. If Tina broke into the cottage, she would have wrecked the place. She never could stand the idea of me having anything nicer than what she did. So yeah, maybe I noticed a few things out of place once or twice, and I chalked it up to Waylay or you or Liza, but Tina did not break in. What if someone let her in? Someone meaning Way? Naomi shot a nervous glance in Nash's direction. What if Tina got word to her that she needed access and Way left a door unlocked? You were the one who yelled at me for leaving the back door unlocked. Or what if Tina told her what she needed and Waylay got it for her? You right? Those are valid concerns. I'm sorry for giving him permission to raise his voice at you and be mad. As this is happening, though, she goes to the restroom to go and get kind of cleaned up. She's in there, and Knox says to his brother, she's a worrier, which is why I don't want her worrying about some stranger sneaking into her home and going through her things. Better the devil you know. Speaking of, are you going to go see him this weekend? If he's there. Give him this for me. Nash limped over to the table, picked up a backpack, and maybe think about not handing over cash. You're lucky I'm tired of fighting about this, I told him as I took the bag. People keep telling me how lucky I am. You're still here, aren't you? You remember what she was wearing when she walked by your window? Yeah, so? She means something to you. Does blood loss make you stupid? What a dick. I'm just saying, you care about her. Any other woman, you wouldn't have bothered calling her on her own bullshit. You would have known any other woman well enough to know she was bullshitting you, let alone care that she was. You getting to your point soon? Yeah, don't fuck it up like you usually do. So, chapter 33, A Swift Kick, from Naomi's perspective, is yet another filler chapter where we just waste like a whole bunch of pages. They go to Waylay's soccer game, and cute relationship building and family banter and supporting Way and blah blah blah. I don't really care. Chapter 34, I'm not going to tell you the title because it spoils what happens. Waylay is going over to a sleepover for the first time ever. So Naomi's like doing her hair and getting her ready, but beforehand, Naomi asks her if she has talked to Tina. And Waylay says that she hasn't heard from Tina, but if it did come up, she reassures Naomi that, like, she likes staying with her. She doesn't want to go back to Tina. If Tina came back, like, she would not want to live with her anymore. Some other stuff that's going on in this chapter is Steph's in Paris. They're randomly texting about it. Knox is out hanging out with Lucian, and Naomi is working. While she's working, though, she suddenly feels very weird. She gets some weird little heebie-jeebies, and she looks up, and it's the spiky redhead guy from the library at a corner table. She's kind of going to her different tables that she's serving, and she's asking if any of them recognize him, and nobody does. And as she's realizing that this is sketchy and not a good situation, and she's thinking to herself how much that she wishes Knox was there, 2 seconds later, I was really glad he wasn't. Guess who busts through the door? None other than Warner, her ex-fiance. What? Oh? So, my note in here, it says, well, some of Lucy's foreshadowing is very, very heavy-handed. This is a good callback when we would expect Tina to show up. Like, she'll lead you down one rabbit hole, or she'll have these, like, dual timelines and kind of crisscross them a little bit unexpectedly, which I do enjoy. Like, I remember reading that, and I was like, oh, which I love doing. I love reading a book and actually being caught off guard like that. So, again, credit where credit is due. She got me, man. So, Warner immediately, he's drunk. He smells like a distillery. Hey, trigger warning, besties, like, the next couple chapters after this are going to be like detailing some domestic, like, physical abuse stuff. So just forewarning, I'll go ahead and put like a little timestamp if you want to skip over it, just so we're all aware of what happens. So he rushes up to her again, smelling like a distillery, grabs her arm. Wow, I wonder who else grabs her arm. Tells her that he's taking her home. Like, we are going home. He's like, you made your point. I can't live without you. I get it. I get that you do a lot for me. Like, it's time to come home. Naomi calms him down, quiets him, and shuffles him off to the hallway to not make a scene. And he is yelling at her and how he found her through her mom's Facebook posts, because mom was geotagging the different locations and knock them out. And the bartender peeks her head around the corner of the hallway and says, hey, is everything cool? And Naomi says yes, because the people pleaser in her cannot ever make a scene or ever be an inconvenience to other people. And it hurts my heart. So she waves off all concern from people, and she's trying to protect this man who does not deserve protection from judgment and whatever. He is getting angrier and angrier, and he's pushing her up against a wall and telling her that she's coming home with him. And then Knox and Lucian show up. And Knox punches him in the face. And Lucian, like, picks him up off of the floor. He's like bleeding on the floor. And Lucian picks him up by the shirt collar and is pushing doors open with his face, which I love. Hey, I love when abusers get abused. I don't think I can say that on the internet, but I do. I love when abusers get abused. If you put your hands on another person, you deserve to get the shit knocked out of you. The title of that chapter was called The Groom, by the way. And that's where it ends up. Lucian takes him up back to continue beating the shit out of him, and we go into the next chapter from Knox's point of view, which again, I will save the title reveal for the very end. This is probably the only redeeming thing that Knox has said that actually made me go, okay, you get a small, very tiny pass. He goes up to Naomi, and he says, I'm going to touch you now because I need to. And I'm warning you in advance, because if I touch you and you flinch, I'm going to go out there in the parking lot and start kicking his ass until he's too broken to ever touch another woman again. He says this, he takes her into his office, and he gives her the code to the door. And he says that if Warner or anyone else that she doesn't want to see ever shows up, that she can go back there and be safe. And I tell you what, the only time in this entire book that I was ever turned on, the only time in this entire book that I said, okay, maybe that was a little sexy. That's hot. That's hot. I'm not going to apologize for that. Maybe I'm sharing too much on the internet. As we go into this next chapter, in which I'm not going to tell you the name of the chapter because that would spoil it, we have a very triggering scene where Naomi recounts her relationship with Warner, particularly the end of it, and the problems that, again, led to her army crawling out of a church basement and ending up in small town Knockamout, Virginia. It's not fun and it's not pretty. Lucy Score did a very, very good job representing the mindset that goes into this. Self-blame, the protecting the abuser, the excuses, the guilt, the justification, like all of these things is done very, very well. And it is triggering, right? Like, objectively, it is a very triggering thing. So I'm going to recount this over the next couple of minutes. I'll put a little timer if you want to skip forward. I don't think that it is my place to pick and choose what parts of a survivor's stories are worth telling, if that makes sense. Not my judgment, not my place, not my call. So I would rather just tell the story in its entirety, read it verbatim, and be respectful of their recounting of the event, and then reflect on it afterwards. Even though she's a fictional character, I feel that it's an important thing to do, and it's a respectful thing to do. So like I said, I'll give you a little timestamp on where to go next if you need to. What happened out there was a shit show. I began, putting my hands on either side of her head. She winced. I know, I'm so sorry. I had no idea he was coming. I haven't talked to him since the rehearsal dinner. I tried to get him away from the crowd and handle it privately, but baby, a man ever gets you in that position again, I want you to knee him in the balls as hard as you can, and when he doubles over, you knee him in the fucking face. Then you run like hell. I don't give a shit about causing scenes. I give a shit that I walked into my bar and found a man with his hands on my girl. I'm sorry, she whispered. Baby, I don't want you to be sorry. I don't want you to be scared. I want you to be as pissed off as I am that some asshole thought he could put his hands on you. I think it's time you tell me the whole story, Days. We really don't need to talk. You're not getting out of this room until you tell me everything. But we're not really together. I pinched her lip closed. I pinched her lips closed. Ew. Naomi, it doesn't matter what the fucking label says. I care about you. And if you don't start talking, I can't do what I need to do to make sure it never happens again. If I tell you, will you let me go back to work? She asked through my fingers. But Bobby, will you let me go back to work? Yes, I'll let you go back to work. Ew, oh my god, Fine, okay, we were together for a while. We'd been together long enough that I'd had my eye on the next step. I don't know if you know this about me, but I really like checking things off my list. Anyway, on paper, we were compatible. It made sense. We made sense. It wasn't like he was making plans for next year's vacations, but he wasn't moving as quickly as I thought he should. I told him that I saw a future for us, that I was working for his family's company, we'd been dating for 3 years, it just made sense. I told him that if he didn't want to be with me, he needed to cut me loose. When he slid a jeweler's box over the table at his favorite Italian place a few weeks later, part of me was so relieved. The other part? I think I knew it was a mistake right there. Baby, you knew it was a mistake a long time before then. Well, you know what they say about hindsight. It makes you feel like an idiot. Something like that. You don't really want to hear all this. Finish it. I spilled my guts to you the night Nash was shot. This'll even us out. We started planning the wedding. By we, I mean his mother and me, because he was busy with work and didn't want to deal with the details. Things were happening with the company. He was under a lot of stress and he started drinking more, snapping at me for little things, and I tried to be better and do better and expect less. About a month before the wedding, we were out to dinner with another couple and he'd had too much to drink, and I was driving us home and he accused me of flirting with the other guy, and I had laughed. Like, it was so absurd, and he didn't think it was funny. He grabbed me by the hair and yanked my head back, and I was so surprised that I swerved and I almost hit a parked car. He said he didn't mean it. He apologized profusely and he sent me flowers every day for a week, and it was the stress, he said. He was trying for a promotion and it would set us up for our future. We were so close to the wedding day, and he really did seem like he was sorry, and I was stupid enough. I was eager enough to move on to the next step, that I'd believed him, that things were fine, that things would be fine, better than fine, until the night of the rehearsal. My fingers dug into my bicep. She was pacing now in front of me. He showed up to the rehearsal smelling like a distillery, and he had had several more drinks during dinner, and I overheard his mother making snide comments about how she wished she could have invited more people, but she couldn't because my parents couldn't afford it. I was so mad that I confronted him when we left the restaurant. Thank God we were alone in the parking lot. My parents had already gone home, and Steph and the rest of the wedding party were still inside. He was just so angry. It was like a switch had flipped, and I never saw it coming. He slapped me right across the face. Hard. Not hard enough to knock me down or anything, but just enough to humiliate me. I stood there in shock, holding my cheek, and I couldn't believe that he would do something like that. I doubted Naomi was aware, but she had lifted a hand to her cheek, as if she could still feel the hit. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I turned to the door and I was ready to rip the knob off when I felt her hands on my back. Knox, what are you doing? I flipped the lock and I wrenched the door open, to dig a shallow grave so I have a place to put him after I'm tired of throwing punches. Her fingernails digged into the skin under my shirt, giving me something else to feel besides fury. Don't leave me alone. He started pacing and yelling, and it was my fault, he told me. He wasn't ready to get married, he had goals and he wanted to accomplish before focusing on his personal life, and it was my fault for pushing him. All he was trying to do was give me everything that I wanted. And there I was, complaining to him the night before the wedding that he didn't want to have. That's fucking bull. Naomi, you know it. Yeah, she squeaked, resting her forehead between my shoulder blades. I felt something damp leak through the shirt. Damn it. I turned and I took her in my arms, holding her face against my chest. Her breath hitched. Baby, you're killing me. I'm so embarrassed. It was just a slap. He didn't put me in the hospital. He didn't threaten my life. It doesn't make it anywhere near right. A man doesn't put hands on a woman like that ever. But I wasn't exactly innocent. I tried to force the man to marry me. Like, I almost said I do, even after he hit me. Like, how pathetic is that? I still don't know if I ever would have made the right choice if Tina hadn't called me and said she was in trouble. That's when I knew I wasn't going to go through with it. Daisy, you gave him a choice. It doesn't matter how shitty the options are. It's still his choice to make. A man doesn't go all in with a woman. It's for a reason. Maybe he's looking for something better. Maybe he's just comfortable with his place in your world and doesn't want to make a place for you in his. Either way, he makes no forward progress unless he's forced to. After that, even if he pops the question, even if he shows up at the altar, he'll hold on to the fact that it wasn't his idea. He washes his hands of responsibility for the entire relationship. But the bottom fucking line is, he had a choice every step of the way. You didn't force him into anything. She looked down. He never thought I was good enough for him. Baby, truth is, on his best day, he was never going to be good enough for you, and he fucking knew it. Damn it, Knox, you cannot be sweet to me right now. Do not cry. Do not shed one more tear over some asshole who had never deserved you in the first place, or I'm gonna break both his arms and legs. Are you ready for this? 3 lines. Actually, I'm just gonna keep reading so you can understand how fucking quickly we whiplash from this moment. Instead of hunting Warner down and kicking him in the gut until my boot wore through, I did something more important. I spun us around so she had her back against the door. Then I pressed my knee between her thighs and pinned her against the door with my hips as I pondered her mouth. I licked and kissed and tasted her until the air around us was electrified, until the pulse in my blood matched the beat of her heart. I pumped against her 1, 2, 3 times before shoving my hand between our bodies and under the skirt that I loved to hate. When I found the silk edge of her underwear, I growled. I knew that by the touch of it that it was one of the pairs that I bought her from Victoria's Secret, yanking the underwear to the side with more haste than finesse. What are you doing? She asked, her eyes glazed with desire. Reminding you what you deserve? I thrust 2 fingers into her wet heat. So then it's like a 5-page scene, by the way. Ew. Oh my god. And so she was pulling me to my feet, her fingers at my belt, her palms went to the door, and she reverently released it was like a lightning strike. My last coherent thought was that the only thing that saved Warner from the beating of his life was Naomi's perfect mouth on my... The title of the chapter, my friends, was The Whole Story and a Happy Ending. I wish this was booze. Fucking A, bro. Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now? Oh my god. You know how frustrating this is? Like, I get that happens, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get it. These are very emotional moments. Like, these are very emotional, wanting to connect with another human being that you feel safe with. And sometimes that comes out and is expressed in, like, you know, different ways. And I totally get it. But maybe let's not put that in a book. Maybe let's not. We could have done a new chapter. We could have cut to a new day. But it literally in the same breath that she expresses a very recent abuse recounting, we're gonna have a scene. Every ounce of like defense that I had for Lucy's score and every ounce of respect that I gave that story just gone to the wayside. Lucy doesn't give a fuck. This is about turning her readers on. I don't know, dude. I'm just like, that disappointed me so much when I read that. I remember reading and just being like, what the Well, again, you couldn't even put it on a new chapter. In the next chapter, Nash, Luciana, and Knox are over at Nash's apartment, and they're talking about how to solve the shooting. They fill each other in on Warner and Tina and what's been going over the last couple of days, when Naomi, on her way back to the cottage after work, I think it's that night, dude, she goes back to the cottage and it's broken into. So not only did this bitch have to deal with her ex and watching him getting beaten and then all of this other stuff, she goes home and her cottage is trashed. Literally nothing else in this chapter other than the brothers like walking through the cottage, assessing damage and looking for people still around. There's no one around, but it's very clear that this time it was Tina that broke in, because again, there's like lipstick on the mirror calling her a whore or something. Cut to the next chapter. We're on chapter 37, a shave and a haircut. From Naomi's perspective, we get an info dump on the opening page of this chapter. Naomi and Wei are staying at Liza J's for a bit under the guise that the cottage had a bug problem. Knox made her tell her parents everything about Warner and why she ran out on the wedding day, which, like, I don't really understand why do her parents need to know about it, and like, why is it his place to force her to tell her parents about that? Like, I don't know, force her to go to therapy, pay for a therapist for her. Not really your business to step in their relationship and make her tell her parents something if she's not comfortable with it. Would love to know the logic behind that, because that still seems very, like, crappy. Anyway, the caseworker, Yolanda Suarez, shows up for the home study. Obviously, that's not going to happen because it got broken into, so they have to fill her in on what happened. And now, on to the meat of this chapter. Knox is driving the girls to the city. Doesn't tell them why they're going to the city. The girls are assuming that they're going on another shopping spree and they're very excited about it. But they show up at a homeless shelter. You know, I'm all about, again, community service and helping your fellow man and all of the positive things like that. But I also don't think that it's appropriate to withhold that information and just kind of force people to volunteer. Doesn't really seem appropriate, but what do I know? So they get there. The girls are getting put to work. They're sorting food and clothing donations. And why are they there, you ask? Knox and Jeremiah have been going to this shelter once a month for years now to give free haircuts. And they also bring in like bags and bags of donations, like a whole bunch of toilet paper, a whole bunch of other like toiletries and needed things. So at the very end of this chapter, after they're done helping people and cutting hair and everything's getting settled, Knox brings her another coffee and he's being super romantic again because some intense stuff. He needs to be caring for her. I respect it. I like it. Whatever. He's wrapping her arms around her and he's holding her. And she thinks to herself, I needed to get out of here, away from these strong arms, so I could remind myself why we wouldn't work, why we weren't really together. Because Knox didn't want to be. Because when it came down to it, no one ever really chose me. That mean little voice did the trick, popping my pretty little balloon of hope like a dart. Knox tensed against me, his hold tightening. Got yourself a girl, Knox? A thin, reedy voice asked. I turned in his arms to see the man who'd been in Knox's chair earlier. Knox's arms tightened around me again, holding my back to his front. Two, actually, I said with a smile, pointing over to where Waylay was giggling at something a boy her age said. Pretty, the man said, just like her mama. Technically, I could have corrected him, but since Waylay's mom was my identical twin, I decided to just pocket it as the compliment it was intended. Aren't you gonna introduce us? The man asked Knox as he scratched at his forearm. There was a subtle unsteadiness to his movements. There were a few beats of awkward silence which I was compelled to interrupt. I'm Naomi, I said, holding a hand out to the man. Naomi, he repeated. This is Duke, Knox interrupted. Duke nodded, looking down at both of his feet for a second. It's nice to meet you, Duke. Then the pleasure's mine. Take good care of him, Knox, he said finally. Knox grunted in response and pulled me back a step. The man shuffled off in the direction of the big commercial kitchen. We're leaving, Knox announced. Go get Way. Something had crawled up Knox's ass. Good. It would keep me from falling head over heels for the man. As we were saying our goodbyes, I spotted Knox by the truck with Duke. He was handing over a backpack that looked as though it was stuffed full. They were having some kind of discussion that looked intense. Duke kept nodding while looking at his feet, scratching absently at his arms. Could it possibly be the backpack that Nash gave Knox a few chapters ago? I wonder who that could be. After that, we hard cut to a scene where the word milk is used again, and he's thinking to himself how he's falling for her. And the scene ends with him thinking, I was still inside her as I plotted how I was going to end it all. That's horrifying. Like, what a horrifying way to phrase that, both because you're a violent psychopath in general, but also, like, how shitty. I was still inside her as I plotted how I was going to end it all. Bro, go to therapy, dude. In that moment, mid-thrust, he pretty much decides he's going to end things with her. And so he takes her to a pizza place, again, the pizza parlor, where we've had a couple other scenes in this, and he breaks up with her. Really ends their fake relationship. He breaks up with her, and he's like, no, really, like, we can't do this. And she says, I'm such an idiot. I know you've got the custody hearing coming up next month, and I'm willing to keep up appearances that we're together if you think that would help in court. I'm still going to be keeping an eye on you and Wei until we know for sure who busted into your place. How magnanimous of you, she said, her tone icy. Magnanimous? Magnanimous. Magnanimous? I said from the beginning I don't do strings. I understand. I'm a lot. Weilei's a lot. This whole thing is a lot. Even on my best day, I'm too much and yet not enough. Don't, Daisy. I believe this is the last time that you get to tell me what to do and that you get to call me Daisy. Don't be like that. You didn't have to do it this way, out in public, so that I wouldn't make some kind of scene. I'm a big girl, Knox, and someday I'm gonna find a man who wants an uppity, needy pain in the ass. One who wants to wade into my mess and stay for the duration. Obviously, you're not him. At least you told me that from the start. I didn't say that. Those are your words, and you're right. I should have listened to you the first time that you said them. Thank you for your offer of pretending to be interested in me, but I think I'll pass. Nothing needs to change, Naomi. You can still work at the bar. You and Liza still have an arrangement. Everything else can stay the same. I have to go. I grabbed her arm and I pulled her into me. Stop grabbing her fucking arm! Sorry. He said it felt natural. And it had the other benefit of forcing her to look at me. Oh my god, bro. Here, I said, yanking an envelope out of my back pocket and handing it over. What is this? A list of reasons why it wasn't good enough? Guess what it is? You're not gonna guess. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? An envelope full of cash. He breaks up with this woman and gives her an envelope full of cash. I mean, hey, I wouldn't be mad. Would I be mad? I kind of be mad. It's a good consolation prize. She is super mad about getting this envelope full of money, however, and so she's storming out of the pizza place and she's rushing down the sidewalk and dodging all these people, and everybody is like calling out to her and she's ignoring them and she keeps running, and guess who she runs into? If you said Yolanda Suarez, the child protective custody agent, you win my eternal love for listening. Yeah, bitch. That's who she runs into. Yolanda fucking Suarez. Again, glaring signs from the universe telling you that he is not the one and this is a problem and he's ruining your life. And then in the next chapter, she's having coffee with the caseworker at the cafe, and they're going over what it means to be a mother and how motherhood is like a lot to go through, and any judge and any jury in the freaking state would realize how good of a mom that she's being and how good of a caretaker that she is, and that, you know, they'd be dumb not to see it. And it's very reassuring and good. So then she goes home. Her mom immediately clocks that there's something wrong, and her mom repeats the same conversation. Her mom tells her how good of a guardian that she is and how strong of a woman that she is, and she deserves love and to be taken care of. And then she calls Steph and has the exact same conversation with the exact same advice. And this entire chapter was just hearing from all of these different perspectives about how wonderful of a person that Naomi is, and how much better off she is without Knox, and how she deserves someone who loves her and sees her for her, you know, true potential and appreciates her, and like repeat, beat the idea into your brain multiple times, because I don't trust my readers to have comprehension skills. That's what I got out of that chapter. And guess what I got out of the next chapter? The exact same thing, but from Knox's point of view. Because Knox goes into a spiraling self-pity thing because the entire town is giving him shit and side-eyeing him. And so he goes home to drink after he gets bullied out of the bar and after he gets bullied out of Whiskey Clipper. And as he's there, he sees a photo of his parents, and he has some ominous comments about their relationship. And then he angles the photo away from him because he doesn't want to look at it. And as he does, and he's thinking about how miserable his life is, Nash comes in. Nash and Lucian, they show up. They barge in the door, and Nash punches him in the face, because that's just how the boys in Knock 'Em Out handle problems. Why would we ever expect grown men to act like grown men? So Nash and Lucian grab some beers, they settle in, and they scold him over the Naomi situation. And Nash cuts straight to it, which I will read this part out loud because I appreciate what they say, and this is the chapter where we get the actual, like, backstory on Knox and why, in big quotes, my friend, why Knox is such a douchebag. We finally get the tragic backstory. So I will read this while I'm not happy about it, because it does add something to the story. This happens every time he sees him, Nash complained to Lucien. Lucien nodded. I'm aware. I didn't like that my brother and his best friend seemed to have a history of making up and discussing my issues. Sees who? Nash leveled me with a look. I rolled my eyes. Oh, come the fuck on. I broke it off with Naomi because she was going to get herself hurt. I did the right thing, and it had nothing to do with anyone else, so stop trying to fucking analyze me. So it's just a coincidence that you see him and the very next day you decide that things are getting too serious? He has nothing to do with it. He has nothing to do with anything that I do. How much did you give him? What are you talking about? How much cash did you give him? That's what you do. You always try to solve problems with money. You try to buy your way out of feeling pain, but you can't. And you can't buy Dad into sobriety. You couldn't buy me into a life that you were comfortable with. And you sure as fuck can't make yourself feel better about breaking Naomi's heart by handing her a wad of cash. I slammed my bottle down on the counter, sending a geyser of beer everywhere. I warned her. I told her not to get attached. She knew it was She knew there was no chance. It's not my fault she's a romantic who thought I could change. I can't change. I don't want to change. And why the fuck am I even having this conversation with you? I didn't do anything wrong. I told her not to fall. Actions speak louder than words, dipshit. Luce, you take care of this. Lucien leaned forward in his chair, elbows resting on his knees. I believe what your brother is trying to tell you is that while you said you couldn't and wouldn't care, your actions told her something else. We had sex, I said flatly. Lucien shook his head. You showed up for her time and time again. You gave her a place to live and a job. You went to her niece's school. You bashed her ex's faces in. You bought her a cell phone. You helped her get a car, Nash added. You looked at her like she was the only woman you saw, and you made her believe, Lucien continued. Waylon trotted over to him and hefted his bulky lap at... What? Sorry. And hefted his bulk into my friend's lap. And you tried to buy her off, Nash said. You about done? I asked, suddenly too tired to fight. About? You want to do the right thing? You need to tell Naomi the real reason why you let her go. Oh? And what's the real reason? That you're scared down to your bones that you'll fall and end up like Dad, like Liza J, that you won't be able to hold up under the bad. It's funny. I used to think my big brother was the smartest guy on the planet. Now I realize he's just a delusional fool. He started for the door, pausing when he got to it. You could have been happy, man. Not just safe. Happy. Like we used to be. Oh my god. That's the closest I've ever come to caring about Knox. God forbid we read something once and come to our own determination and come to our own conclusion about how things should be, because Naomi's dad shows up and Steph texts Knox, all of them calling him a douchebag, all of them telling him how horrible of a guy that he's being. I will, however, read the conversation between Naomi's dad and Knox, because I do think that that adds a little bit more additional context to his backstory, but I'm not happy about the way that it was presented and about the fact that we got 2 chapters back to back of 3 different perspectives of, like, reassuring the main character's beliefs. I only need to hear it one time, and I also don't need to hear it by this point in the book, because we are like 70% through? I know who these characters are. You've made it very clear. I don't need you to spell it out for me. Her dad busts through the door. Knox says, I'm 43 years old, Lou. Lou's her dad, obviously. I don't need a father-son moment. Tough shit, because that's what you're gonna get. I'm sorry that you suffered so much loss early in your life, and I'm sorry that your mom died and your dad abandoned... Sorry. The trauma dumping, though, like the way that this is, like, not so subtly presented is just so funny to me. I'm sorry that your mom died and your dad abandoned you. Liza's told us bits and pieces. I'm sorry that you lost your grandfather just a few years later. It's not fair, and I can't blame you for wanting to hide from all that pain. I'm not hiding. I'm a goddamn open book. I told your daughter what she could expect from me. It's not my fault she got her hopes up. That would be true if it weren't for one thing. If I let you tell me the one thing, will you leave? You didn't do it because you didn't care. You did it because you cared too much and it scared you. Son, you f***ed up big time. I may be Naomi's father, and that might make me a bit biased, but I know my daughter is one of a kind, a once-in-a-lifetime woman just like her mom, and I don't like what it says about how you feel about yourself that you don't think you deserve her. I put my glass down. He hadn't said that I didn't deserve her. He said I thought I didn't deserve her. Jesus Christ. Do you deserve Amanda? Naomi's mom. Hell no. I still don't. I've spent every day of my life since I met her trying to be the kind of man who does. She made me a better man. She gave me the kind of life I never dreamed I'd have. And yeah, we've had our rough times. Most of them revolving around Tina, but fact is, I've never once regretted sticking. Bro, I swear to God, also, Lucy just leaves off whole ass words. Sticking around? I've never regretted sticking? Sooner or later, you're gonna have to accept that you're not responsible for other people's choices. Worse, sometimes you can't fix what's wrong with them. I'm not responsible for my daughter's choices or the outcomes of those choices. You're not responsible for your father's, but you are responsible for the choices you make, and that includes walking away from the best thing that will ever happen to you. You couldn't save your mom from an accident any more than you could have saved your dad from addiction. Now you worry you won't be able to save anyone else or stand losing someone else. Somewhere deep down is a man stronger than your father ever was. I see it. Your grandmother sees it. My daughter sees it. Maybe it's about time that you look in the mirror. Damn, Lou. Again, good talks, but I don't need to hear it 18 times over, you know what I mean? So we go into chapter 41, post-breakup. Naomi is wallowing 5 days after the breakup, and she's still in a funk in her bed. Steph is still overseas, but he calls her, realizes that she's still in a funk, and then sends her a list of to-do items called the new Naomi list. It includes getting out of bed and washing your hair and throwing a party. And so she's working on this list, and she finally gets up out of bed and she goes downstairs to the kitchen and she's making breakfast for herself and Waylay. While she's cooking, they have a discussion about the breakup and the break-in at the apartment cottage thing. And Way says some really heartbreaking stuff as anticipated, and is asking Naomi why they weren't good enough for Knox. And she says, I thought he liked us. I thought he really liked us. Which makes me so sad. Part of that list, right, I mentioned was the party. So Naomi is going to throw a party that night at the house, and then they talk about throwing Waylay's birthday party in a couple of months. So while we have the new Naomi in chapter 41, chapter 42 is the old Knox. And again, he's just moping around town. Everyone's still giving him shit. And he goes home, though, after, again, getting ran out of his own bar in Whiskey Clipper. And he goes home only to drive by the lodge while the party is in full swing, which, yet again, sends him spiraling. So he steps out onto his porch to watch this and to watch all these happy people. And Waylon, his dog, bolts out from his cabin and goes down to the lodge to go and hang out with all the people. Are you ready for shit? Because any ounce of redeeming quality that you have maybe somehow gathered and managed to give this man, I'm about to change your mind. He sees this party happening as he looks up, and he's admiring how beautiful it is and how happy everybody is and how much of a good time that it looks. Naomi is standing next to Nash, and it looks like they're having a good old time. She was next to the creek, standing close to my little brother, having what looked to be an intimate chat. Her gloved hand reached out and clutched his arm. My fists clenched at my sides, red filtered into the corners of my vision. My brother hadn't wasted a goddamn second, had he? It wasn't a conscious decision to go to her, but my feet had a mind of their own. I strode across the grass toward the happy little group with destruction in mind. You two didn't waste any goddamn time, did you? I snapped when I caught them on the other side of the fire. Nash had the audacity to laugh right in my face, but Naomi was something else. The easy smile on her face disappeared, and when she looked at me, it wasn't a nice princess I saw, ready to freeze me out. It was a woman on fire, ready to burn me alive. The relief was swift and overwhelming. The tightness in my chest loosened by millimeters. Freezing me out meant she didn't care, but the fire that I saw in those gorgeous hazel eyes told me she hated my guts. That was better than cold disinterest any day. Nash took a step forward, effectively putting himself between me and Naomi, which only served to piss me off. You got a problem? He asked me.
Problem? With you helping yourself to my leftovers? Nah, but she better not go to waste. My leftovers? I was such a fucking asshole and I'd gone way too far. I deserved the beating Nash was about to throw me. Part of me wanted it. I wanted the physical punishment to take the place of the emotional shitstorm that was ripping me apart inside. I couldn't think straight with her this Jesus Christ. A 43-year-old man just referred to this woman as leftovers. A woman that he loves. A woman that he supposedly loves. A woman that he supposedly loves who opened her heart to him about being abused in a previous relationship like 5 chapters ago. The way that this book is written is as if it does not recognize, like emotional abuse and verbal abuse as abuse. It is almost like it only acknowledges physical abuse and that the other ones aren't real. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting. He's like, a man is totally cool and his behavior is excusable if he doesn't put his hands on you, which is so inappropriate. I don't think I have any other words in that. And again, in the words of Natalie, serious cap time, verbal abuse is abuse. Emotional abuse is abuse. Or if a person is, treating you intentionally horribly, then that's what it is. Somebody doesn't have to be hitting you or physically harming you for it to be a problem. And they don't have to be physically harming you for you to have a reason to leave. It feels like so many of these books are presented in that way of no, it's cool. He can say whatever and do whatever. As long as he's not physical with you, it's fine. And I'm like, it's not, dude. Can we not set that precedent? Can we not put that out into the universe? So after Knox just making a fool of himself at this party, he finally storms away. There's some other conflict that happens that's not really relevant. He's leaving and he says, I saw a flash of pink out of the corner of my eye and I found Waylay standing a few feet away from me. Waylon sat at her feet. Hey, Way, I said, suddenly feeling like the biggest, stupidest asshole on the planet. Hey, Knox. How's it going? How did soccer practice go? I meant to swing by, but it's okay. You don't have to pretend. Aunt Naomi and me, we're used to people not wanting us. Wait, that's not fair. That's not why things didn't work out between your aunt and me. Whatever. You probably shouldn't swear in front of kids. They might learn something from you. I'm serious, kid. You two are too good for me. Sooner or later, you both would have figured it out. You deserve better. If you really thought that, you would be working hard to be good enough, not dumping us like we're trash. I never said you were trash. You never said much of anything, did you? Now leave Aunt Naomi alone. You're right. She deserves better than some guy who isn't smart enough to see how awesome she is. I know how awesome she is, and I know how awesome you are. Not awesome enough for you to stay, though. I hated myself for giving her one more reason to doubt that she was anything but the smart, beautiful badass she was. You should go, Waylay told me. You make Aunt Naomi sad, and I don't like that. Are you gonna put field mice in my house? Why bother? There's no point in getting revenge on someone who's too dumb to care. She turned and started toward the fire, and then stopped again. I'm keeping your dog. Come on, Waylon. I watched the kid that I not only liked but respected wandered off toward the party with my own damn dog. You deserve it, bitch. Your dog just got taken by an 11-year-old. So then... That's so funny. That was my favorite part of the whole book. You go, Waylay. Yeah, f that guy. Take his dog. So, chapter 43 is called Day Drinking. Naomi goes to her first shift at the bar since the breakup, and they end up talking a bit. He's kind of forcing himself on her, and he's working at the literal bar, and she's doing her waitressing thing, but he keeps cornering her to try and talk to her, and she's brushing it off, and she's saying, it's fine, we need to move on. We're both moving on, it's all good. An hour into the shift, a woman comes storming in, and she's gorgeous. Naomi's ogling her and complimenting her and saying how good her jeans look and her shoes, and she's super hot and she has great clothes, and Naomi wants to ask her about where she bought them from. Right as this woman goes straight up to Knox, leans over the bar and kisses him on the mouth. Huh? So Naomi freaks out. She runs to the bathroom, obviously horrified by this. Lena is her name. She's an ex of Knox's who comes around every couple of years, and I guess they usually hook up or something. So She never tells him when she's in town because Knox is a notorious bachelor and it's super cash. She hadn't talked to him lately to understand he had all this other stuff going on, so she just thought it was cool to roll up and kiss him on the mouth. She goes into the bathroom after Naomi to clear things up. Not sure what there is to clear up. I'm not sure how you can justify that weird ass behavior. But Lena says, hey, it's cool. We're like the only people that are exes of Knox's. You and I need to go to a bar and talk about things. Like, this is great timing. And so she literally kidnaps Naomi and they go to a bar on the other side of town to go and have drinks and gossip about the guy, because that's totally normal. Salone texts her because, again, small town gossip, everybody's texting about the situation. Salone asks if she's okay and, like, alive, and Naomi tells Salone the bar that they're at, and so Salone rolls up, and then it ends up just being 3 girls gossiping about boys. Bro, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know either. We're about to start chapter 44, called The Babysitters. And from here out, the book is going to fly by, and it's going to feel like a fever dream. We have 6 chapters left. I have the stats broken down, I think, in another chapter or two, and where I'm going to start specifically calling out page by page where we're at so you can understand how quickly this unravels into absolute chaos. But yeah, bro, it's about to get weird, so you better, like, strap in. If you've been sleeping or this has been a background thing, you need to dial it in, homie, because it's about to get funky. Chapter 44, The Babysitters. So while Salone, Naomi, and Lena are out at the bar having little girly pop time, Knox called the cops. Why do you ask? He was calling Lena and Naomi, and neither of them were responding, and Lena pretty much told him to fuck off, and so he calls the cops. So in response, Nash and Lucian show up to the bar to keep tabs on them and to be the babysitters. And this entire chapter is just a setup for the next books in the series. Nash and Lena end up together in book 2, and then Lucian and Salone are the characters for book 3. So really, this is all just filler to market a trilogy. That's all that it is, to market the next books in the trilogy. Just know, what we learned from this is just verification that Knox is in fact a controlling maniac, texting the entire group of people to get updates on her. He wants to know every single thing that she's saying, and he is incessantly calling and texting her. She goes to the restroom, and Nash pulls her to the side and talks to her and says that he's worried about the redhead guy that showed up at the library and at the bar, and he's worried that he might be the one that broke into Naomi's house. So she goes into the restroom and she shoots Tina a final email and is like, hey, like, what do you want? Like, literally, what are you looking for? And Knox calls her again, and she finally answers him because she's drunk enough to answer and stand up for herself. There's a little bit of an argument, and he tries to apologize, and he's like, we can be friends. And she's like, I don't want to be friends. I'm quitting the bar. Lose my number. Cut back to Knox's bar. It's Naomi's last night at work because, again, she meant what she said. She's fucking done. She's done with him. She's done with this drama. She's done with everything. He's cornering her. He's getting all up in her business. And eventually he says, hey, meet me in my office in 15 minutes. And she's like, dude, I don't want to talk to you. Like, I'm so done with this. And he's like, meet me in my office in 15 minutes or else. 16 minutes later, he walks out to the bar, grabs her, throws her over his shoulder. She's wearing a skirt, so her ass and panties are out for the crowd to see. So everybody's all wolf whistling and freaking out, and again, small town drama, texting about her butt being out, just like utterly embarrassing her and manhandling her and forcing her into a conversation that she doesn't want to be a part of. So he, throws her on his shoulder and walks her back to his office room and throws her on the chair and has the following conversation with her. Kind of cutting back to the discussion with Lou, her dad. It is sad. His backstory is sad. Do not get me wrong. His backstory is tragic. Just wish that we could not use a negative backstory as justification for behavior. Or do that at first, have character growth and realization, and be like, wow, you know what? Actually, that's not a reason to be a bad person to you. I'm so sorry. But there's nothing. Of all of the times that Lucy Score spells out things for us, this is the one time that, like, she expects us to make an inference that this means that he's a better man? Girl, get fucked. Sorry, that was aggressive. So, he throws her on the chair in his office. She tries to get up, and he says, Naomi, just give me a second. I don't talk about this shit to anyone, okay? Why start now? You met my father at the shelter. Oh my god, Duke. You cut his hair. You introduced us. I hadn't introduced them. Naomi had introduced herself. What the Sorry. I hadn't introduced them. Naomi had introduced herself. Why say that? When my mom died, he didn't deal. He started drinking. He stopped going to work. He got busted for a DUI. That's when Liza and Pop took us in. They were grieving too. For them, being around me and Nash wasn't some painful reminder of what they had lost. For my father, he couldn't even look at us. The drinking continued here, right here at the bar before it was honky-tonk. When the alcohol stopped numbing him, he went looking for something harder. So many memories I thought I'd buried came rushing back. Dad with bloodshot eyes, scratches and scabs all over his arms, bruises and cuts he didn't remember on his face. Dad curled on the floor in the kitchen, screaming about bugs. Dad unresponsive on Nash's bed, an empty bottle of pills next to him. I chanced to glance up at Naomi, sitting stock still, eyes wide open and sad. It was better than the frosty indifference. He was in and out of rehab half a dozen times before my grandparents kicked him out. He never got it together. He never tried. Nash and I weren't enough of a reason for him to hang on. We lost my mom, but she didn't choose to leave us. Dad, he chose. He abandoned us. He wakes up every day and makes the same choice. Shortly after he did that, and the dad was going in and out of rehab, Knox's grandfather died. And when Knox's grandfather died, Liza did not take it well. It was too much for Liza. She broke down and cried in front of the casket, the silent, never-ending well of tears as she stood over the man she'd loved her entire life. I'd never felt more hopeless my entire goddamn existence. She shuttered the lodge. She drew the curtains to keep the light out. She stopped living. Those curtains stayed closed until I'd met you. Oh my god. So it's like, Mom died, Dad couldn't handle it, lost his shit. Grandpa died, Liza lost her shit, couldn't handle it either. That's in my blood. My dad, Liza J, they couldn't deal. They lost themselves and everything around them spiraled out of control. I come from that. I can't afford to give up like that. I already have people who depend on me. Some days it feels like this whole town needs something from me. I can't put myself in a position where I'll let them down. And then there's some back and forth about how they wouldn't work together and why they wouldn't work. She gets up to leave and Knox stops her at the door and he says, "Do you think if we carried on, if we hadn't called it off, is it possible that you would have..." Yeah. Yeah, what? I would have loved you. How do you know? Because I already do, dummy. My guy. You're telling me we couldn't have had this conversation literally 200 pages ago? I feel like when his brother got shot at the hospital, that could have been the moment. That could have been the moment where he said, "Oh my god, I love this woman and life is so precious and I don't want to deal with these things," and you know what I mean? Or even after Warner and she had this heartfelt opening up to him, maybe instead of getting and doing stuff together, they could have had a real emotional connection and he could have been open and honest about his feelings. But instead, Lucy Score wants to write another freaking handful of pages about a handful of chapters really about absolute nonsense. So we go into chapter 46. We are on page 491 of 535. There are 44 pages until the epilogue. I just want you to keep that in mind. We just had a trauma dump from the main male character. They are currently broken up. There's some weird stuff going on. There's a bunch of loose ends. We have 44 pages. What do you think is going to happen next? This chapter opens with Naomi, cleaning herself up in the bathroom, and she thinks to herself, "No wonder. There were things a person never got over. We both just wanted someone to love us enough to make up for all the times that we hadn't been loved enough. It felt like such a waste that we could feel the way that we did, but neither of us could be that person for the other." Why, dude? Why not? I don't understand. Again, she showed up to town and he chose to have beef with her. There's no enemies to lovers. There's no genuine reason why they can't be together. There is literally nothing, dude. It makes no sense to me. Whatever. After she's done cleaning herself up and having this stupid monologue, she checks her cell phone. And there's a bunch of texts from people about her being carried off. But she has one very weird text from 15 minutes ago from Waylay that says, "I'm in trouble." And there's 3 missed calls from an unknown number. And so she rushes outside to call Liza when a car rolls up. All right, who do you think it is? My twin sister leaned out of the driver's side window. I felt like I was looking in the mirror again, a funhouse mirror. Her formerly bleached hair was now a dark brown and cut short in a similar style to mine. Our eyes were the same hazel. The differences were subtle. She was wearing a cheap fake leather jacket. She had multiple earrings in both ears. Eyeliner was thick and blue. But she looked as worried as I felt. "He's got Waylay, he took her," she said. My stomach dropped and a wave of nausea crested over every muscle in my body as it tightened. "What? Who took her? Where is she?" "It's all my fault," Tina wailed. "We need to go. You have to help me. I know where he took her." "We should call the police," I said, remembering I had my phone in my hand. "We'll call him on the way. We've got to move fast," she said. "Come on." Sorry. Hey, I gotta differentiate between these women. One of them's gotta be Southern, okay? Don't fucking laugh at me. Oh my god. Are you with me? Are you with me? Are you not? Oh my god. Okay, I keep listening to that back, but okay, dude. What do you want me to do? We got two women talking to each other. What do you want me to do, okay? Operating on autopilot, I opened the passenger door and I climbed in. I was reaching for my seatbelt when something furry clamped on my wrist. "What are you doing?" I shrieked. Tina grabbed my other arm, her fingernails digging into my wrist. I tried to pull away, but it wasn't quick enough. She snapped the other cuff in place. "For a smart one, you sure are stupid." My evil twin sister had just handcuffed me to the dashboard with furry sex cuffs. "Where's Waylay?" "Relax. The kid's fine, and you will be too if you cooperate." "Cooperate how? With who?" I yanked against the cuffs. She let out a cackle as she pulled out of the parking lot. "Pretty funny, right? I found those in a box of sex toys in my old asshole's Hello? In my old asshole landlord's storage unit. Gross! I was gonna need to scrub myself with bleach when this was over. And so she's handcuffed, right, to the thing, as Tina is driving her away to God knows where. Naomi's phone fell onto the floor. So as they're having these conversations and this back and forth, trying to figure out what's going on, Naomi is like trying to flip her phone over with her feet so she can call somebody somehow. Even if you were successful in doing that, what's the next step? So she does end up flipping her phone over, and when she does, it turns on, like the screen brightens up a lot, and so Tina notices it, and so Tina reaches over to get the phone, busting through a fence, ending up in this middle of this field, and eventually is able to pick up Naomi's phone, throws it out the window, and then, drives up the embankment and drives off. 30 minutes later, Tina turned off the pothole-ridden road that cut through a run-down industrial section of a DC suburb. She pulled up to a chain-link fence and laid on the horn. Two shadowy figures dressed in denim and leather appeared and wrestled the gate open with an ear-splitting screech. We pulled through the gate and Tina brought the car to a stop in front of a loading dock. She lit another cigarette, her fourth of the trip. "Okay, Judgy, you shouldn't smoke so much." "What are you, the lung police?" "It gives you wrinkles. That's what plastic surgeons are for," Tina said, hefting her significantly large fake breasts. "I need you to do me a favor." "Anything for you, Tina." "I bet my man $100 that I could get you in here without knocking you out or forcing you. So here's how it's gonna go. I'm gonna uncuff you, take you upstairs to my man and the kid, and you're not gonna tell him about these." She ruffled the purple leopard fur on the cuff closest to her. My sister was an idiot. "If I uncuff you and you try to run, or if you open your tattletale mouth up there, I'll make sure you never see Waylay again." An idiot with a surprising grasp of what motivated people. "Yeah, I knew you liked her. I figured she'd like you too, seeing how you're into all that girly shit. I knew you'd be the best place to park my kid until I was ready to hit the road." When they walk up the stairs of this warehouse, they end up on this it's like warehouse, they parked it, there's some shit that go up the stairs, there's like office space area at the very top, kind of overlooking it is how I picture it. The floor was sticky, the ceiling had holes in it, and there was a thick layer of grime on the windows. I itched to find Lysol and start scrubbing until I spotted the table stacked nearly a foot high with bundles of cash. "Told ya," Tina said triumphantly, hooking her thumb in my direction. "Walked right in, didn't she?" I stopped short when I recognized the man in the large leather office chair in front of the flat screen TV. It was the red-haired guy from the library. He was rubbing a cloth over an already gleaming handgun. I gulped. Well, 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 if it isn't my old lady's doppelganger, remember me? Mr. Flint. His name's Duncan Hugo, as in the Hugo Crime Syndicate. I'm sorry, again, Syndicate? Bitch, I had to Google that shit. I don't even remember what it was now. I'm gonna put it up here in case you don't know what Syndicate is either. What did I tell you, T? Don't say my fucking name to any fucking one. She's my sister. If I can't tell her, who can I tell? Duncan pinched the bridge of his nose. A move I'd seen my father and Knox make. I wondered if all wit women had this effect on men. Where's Waylay? Oh yeah, where's the kid? Duncan's grin got wider and meaner. With his boot, he gave the chair next to him a kick. It rolled across the floor, and the seat slowly spinning to face us. Waylay, wearing pajamas and sneakers, was gagged and tied to the chair. She looked mutinous, her expression mirroring her mother's. Waylon was sitting in her lap. His tail thumped when he spotted me. I forgot all about being scared, and I almost felt sorry for the red-headed moron. If Tina or I didn't kill him for tying up Waylay, Knox would for stealing his dog. And not the girl. Okay, why is she tied up? Little bitch called me a weasel and tried to kick me in the balls. Bit me too. Well, were you being a weasel? Give me my money and untie her, Tina demanded. I couldn't help but notice the order of her priorities and tabled my newfound respect for my sister. Exasperated, I started toward Waylay. Waylon scrambled off of her lap and tried to approach, but was stopped by his leash. One more step and we're gonna have a problem, not Tina. The warning was accompanied by the racking of a gun as Duncan came to his feet. I need you to stand right where you are. Now, Waylay, whatever the kind of name that is. Where's the fucking flash drive? You got 10 seconds to tell me or I'm gonna shoot your aunt right between the eyes. The cigarette in Tina's mouth fell to the floor as she gaped at him. The fuck? That wasn't part of the plan, you asshole. You shut your mouth or I'll drop you next to your sister. Hey, what's sadder than a dead twin? 2 dead twins. You dirty double-crosser. He stopped laughing. Now hold on there, T. I ain't double-crossed you yet. I meant what I said. We can take the drive, sell it, and start building something real. Something that's got nothing to do with my fucking dad or the fucking family business. His arms flailed the barrel of the gun, pointing everywhere all at once. Could you please gesticulate without the gun? Gesticulate? Christ, again with the daddy issues, Tina scoffed at Duncan. My daddy's a big crime lord. It's so hard to live up to his example. Boo freaking who? Again, I began to inch my way toward Waylay. You know I don't like it when you talk to me like my mom. Hey, I'm doing this for you, T. We could finally get the equipment to make those fake IDs you're always running your mouth about, or set up a black market organ donor farm. Or set up a black market organ donor farm. Sorry, it's getting late. Can you tell? A black organ donor farm. I raced forward, untangling the dog leash and the rope. One more move and both of them get it. Duncan warned, a gun trained on me as he stared at Waylay. You've got 5 seconds, kid. Where's the drive? And we cut to chapter 47. Missing from Knox's POV. Knox finally leaves his area, his bar, his back area. And the bartender's like, bro, where's Naomi? Like, did you scare her off? And he's like, no, dude, we were on a good note. I don't know what you mean. She should totally be here. And everybody, all at the same time, realizes that she's missing. Only for Knox, like, for his phone to ring and for it to be Nash to tell him that Way is also missing. Knox calls Naomi's dad to tell them what's going on. One of the workers checks the security cameras and they see her get into a car. And everybody kind of has the same realization at once of, wait a second, Naomi's on your family plan. If you log into it, you can see where her location is. You can track her. And Knox says, I'm old, I don't know how to do that, here you go, and gives his phone to one of the bartenders to figure out how to do that to track her down. Because he's a millionaire, but still has her on his phone plan. Again, this is where it comes in as being like a relevant plot device, but like, he's a millionaire. Why is this a plot device in the first place? Whatever. That's just me. Her phone pings. They figure out where she is. And her phone pings in that field where Tina had driven off the road. So Knox and Naomi's dad hop into his truck and they drive out there. When they find the smashed fence and when they find her phone, it finally settles in, like, this is not good. This is not going to end well. Like, there's something absolutely wrong. So they go back to the bar. Nash has the plate number, and Lucien, with his little dirty underbelly stuff, comes in with super secret illegal info that he knows that it's Hugo. The license plate matches Hugo Duncan and explains that the Hugo father and Duncan had the falling out, and so Duncan is trying to prove himself, and he's doing all this drama, and so they think that that is where this is all coming from. Rumors mention a woman that he's been working with / dating, aka Tina. And then we cut back. Chapter 48. I said in my notes, hey bestie, just checking in, 24 pages since I mentioned anything. Literally 20 pages left in this book. So we cut back to Duncan. Dude, I can't even summarize this shit. Like, we are in such a rush that at the end of this book that it's not even worth summarizing. So I'm just gonna read it out loud to you, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2. What makes you think that Whaley even knows what the hell you're looking for even is? I asked, desperate to keep Duncan distracted from his deadly countdown. Tina didn't say anything. Her eyes were glued to Duncan, and I was surprised he hadn't caught fire from the flames shooting out of them. The man had no idea the fuse he'd just lit. I only hoped my sister's impending explosion wouldn't get us all killed. Simple addition. Tina took the flash drive and it disappeared. Only one other person in that house, that little brat who likes technology and stealing stuff. Tina told you it disappeared? No, Santa Claus did. Did it ever occur to you that Tina is hiding the flash drive? Maybe she took it to cut you out of the deal. Both Tina and Duncan were now looking at me. I didn't know if I just made things better or worse, but at least the gun was pointing at the floor. Don't listen to her, Tina said, seeming to come back to life. She's just doing what she used to do with our parents. She's trying to manipulate you. I hate that shit, he said, raising the gun once again. Now where was I, 5? You have to go to the bathroom, Tina announced to me. What? You have to go to the bathroom, she said again before turning her back to Duncan. She got her period. You don't want to shoot her and get period all over the place, do you, Dunk? Gross. Don't tell me that woman shit, he complained, looking like he was about to vomit. I'll go to the bathroom and we'll get the kid to talk about where she stashed the drive, she said with a pointed look in Whaley's direction. Then I'll run out and get you some of that fried chicken you like. Tina was definitely up to something. She had that crafty look on her face, and I definitely hadn't gotten my period. The honky-tonk code red was 2 weeks out. That's more like it, Duncan said, satisfied that his woman was back in line. Wasn't really going to shoot you, T. I know, you're just under a lot of stress, baby. Take a break, drink a beer, we'll be right back, she called over her shoulder. She shoved me through the door into the bathroom that needed to be hosed down with a truckload of bleach. Take your clothes off. What? Tina, we can't leave Whaley out there alone with him. He's insane. I'm getting that. Now take your goddamn clothes off. You've gone off the deep end, haven't you? For fuck's sake, I'm not trying to have incestual relations with you. This ain't a porno. We're trading places. He's not going to let you walk out of here and get help, but he'll let me leave, she said as she stripped her shirt over her head and threw it in my direction. It hit me in the face. Then leave and I'll call the police. I'm not leaving Wade with that stupid motherfucker. He's fondling that Beretta like it's his dick, and he's got a loaded PPK under that pizza box. You know how to work one? Are you willing to shoot a man in the balls and risk prison? No and yes, if he gets Whaley out of here alive. Well, I'm yes and yes. I pulled her shirt over my head. Fine, okay, what's the plan then? We'll go out there. I'm you, but I give Wade the code. What's the code? I say I read this article on the devastation of the rainforest, and she knows it's code for get ready to run. Okay, and then what? She'll make up the location of wherever she hid the thing. Dunk will send his guys to get it. You'll leave to get celebratory chicken, and really you'll go down to the car and call 911. What will you do? I'll do whatever it takes to get Whaley out of here. Your boobs are exploding out of my shirt. Stuff. Seriously? As long as you and me have big tits, he won't notice the difference. Go outside. They meet Dunk and Whaley. Tina says the code word about the devastation of the forest. But again, she has duct tape on her mouth, so she can't even tell these people where this thing is anyway. But eventually, Duncan sees through their little twin switcheroo thing, and he's like, I can't believe y'all would think I'm stupid. Like, he's like, this is so disrespectful. I can't believe you would treat me like this, Tina. And Naomi's like, how did you know the difference? And he says, your tits aren't crooked. And she said, you mean Tina's aren't? No, dumbass, Tina's are crooked. Yours aren't. Who's the idiot now? She had like a bad boob job? What are we reading? So he's obviously very angry because he realized that his girl is trying to trick him. Tina was frantically trying to work Wayle's bonds free. Knee, balls, nose. Knox's instructions came to me almost as if he were standing next to me. I liked you, Tina. Really fucking liked you, and now I have to kill you. How do you think that makes me feel? He raised the gun, and I knew somewhere deep inside that this time he intended to use it. Tina was looking at me hard, and once for my life I could read her mind. Hey, Duncan, I said. The second his eyes were on me, everything moved in slow motion. Tina gave Whaley's chair a shove out of the line of fire and dove in the opposite direction, reaching for the pizza box. I grabbed his shoulder and I rammed my knee into his crotch. The gun went off as he doubled over. My ears rang, but I could still hear knocks in my head. Nose. Clinging to his shoulders, I brought my knee up. I couldn't hear if there was a crunch, but judging by the way the man crumpled to the ground, I'd done it correctly. Over the ringing in my ears, I thought I heard more shots, but they sounded like they were farther away. A siren, too. I left Duncan where he lay, and I sprinted to Whaley, spinning her chair around. I was beyond relief to see she was unharmed. Are you okay? I asked, my shaking fingers starting to untie her. That was awesome, Aunt Naomi. You stupid piece of shit. Tina had the pizza gun trained on Duncan as he got to his hands and knees. You were gonna shoot my daughter, my sister, and me? You're lucky I don't have time to shoot you. And then she turned away from him. Here, she said, handing me the gun. I held it at arm's length and I prayed that it wouldn't go off. You're not seriously running, are you? Of course my sister was running. It's what she always did after making a mess. Tina grabbed the grungy black duffel bag off of the floor and shoved several stacks of cash into it. Then she dumped the rest of the pizza on top, leaving the piece with a bullet hole. Take care of my kid, she said with a little salute, and then she disappeared out of the window onto the fire escape. Come on, let's get out of here, I said, putting the gun down and untying Waylon's leash from the leg of the desk. It wasn't just my hands that were shaking now, it was my entire body. I wasn't going to feel safe until we were home at Liza's, maybe not even then. The image of the gun pointing at my niece was permanently engraved in my brain. I doubted I'd ever sleep again. Aunt Naomi! The panic in Whaley's voice had me spinning around. Instinctively, I put myself between her and danger, right into Duncan's bruising grip. His hand closed around my neck, cutting off my breath. Blood poured from his nose. For the briefest moment, I felt a flicker of satisfaction that I'd done that. I'd stood up to him. That moment was fleeting as blackness crept in along the edges of my vision. You ruined everything, he howled. Time froze and solidified into a picture of the end as he brought the gun to my head. This couldn't be how it ended. Not with Whaley watching. Not with help in the building. Not without Knox. I felt Whaley's arms come around me from behind. One last hug. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't tell her to run. My world was going dark. The door burst open, startling me and Duncan. He turned his head in time to see one of his men fall backwards into the room. Scratch that. He didn't fall. The man was thrown like a rag doll. With the last of my energy, I landed a kick to Duncan's shin. Whaley, run! Someone ordered. The voice sounded so beautifully familiar, yet so far away. Help was in the room. Whaley would be okay. I slipped into darkness. So it's only 49 chapters and then it's the epilogue. So I might just read a little bit of this last one for you because the same reason, it's just fucking funny and I'm so over this and I can't even summarize it. We're in the last chapter. We're in the last 10 pages, dude. How did we get here? So I'm just gonna read it. So this is from Knox's perspective. I hit him low and hard, driving his body into the floor. Some part of me was aware of Naomi crumbling to the ground. I needed to go to her, but I couldn't stop hitting the man beneath me. My fist plowed into his face again and again and again. Duncan Hugo ceased to exist to me. There was only Naomi and Whaley. Whaley knelt next to her, holding her hand. Wake up, Aunt Naomi. Make her wake up, Knox, she begged. Still clutching Whaley to me, I leaned over Naomi and I cupped the face of the woman I loved, the woman I'd lost, the woman I couldn't live without. Wake the fuck up, Days. I growled. My eyes and throat burned. My vision blurred as hot tears clouded everything. I almost missed it, the flicker of those long lashes. Then I was sure it was a hallucination when this beautiful fucking hazel eyes opened. "Coffee?" she croaked. "Christ, I loved this woman." Waylay tensed against me, her arms nearly choking me around the neck. "You didn't leave me." "Of course I didn't leave you." Naomi rasped. The bruises on her throat made me want to end the life of the man who'd put them there, but I had a more important priority. "Welcome back, Days," I whispered. Before I could answer, the side door I'd used to sneak in while Lucian created a distraction burst open. I saw the gun and the gleam in the man's eyes, and I knew what was about to happen. Operating on instinct, I pulled Waylay in front and used my body to pin her and Naomi to the ground. 2 shots rang out in rapid succession, but I felt nothing. No pain, just my girls warm and alive beneath me. I chanced to glance up and saw the gunman on the floor. "You fucking idiots," Nash said, leaning against the wall. He had a cut on his face, blood on his t-shirt, and was sweating profusely. "Are we alive?" Waylay asked under me. "We're alive, honey," Naomi assured her. Carefully, I eased my weight off both of them. They both stared at me with identical grins. I pointed at Waylay. "You're getting a goddamn birthday party, and after that, we're getting married," I told Naomi. "What?" Naomi's eyes went wide, and she reached for me, hands frantically prodding my torso. "What's wrong, baby?" "Are you shot? Did you hit your head?" "No, Days, I'm fine." "Did I hit my head?" "I must have. I thought I just heard you said that we're gonna get married." "Yeah, you think I'm dumb enough to let you two go?" Yeah, Way, Lucian, and Nash said together. So then they all look over, and Duncan's gone. They were distracted. He crawled away. Eventually, they all leave. The cops show up, the ambulance shows up, they all go downstairs, and as they're sitting on the back of the ambulance and getting looked at, by the paramedics and stuff, one of the cops comes up, and he says, "Just one more question, Mrs. Witt. A patrol car picked up a woman claiming to be Naomi Witt, caught her trying to steal a Mustang 2 blocks from here. Do you have any idea who she might be?" "You've got to be kidding me," Naomi groaned. So they caught her sister. And then Nash, Lucian, and Knox talk to Waylay because they're trying to figure out, what is going on? What exactly is happening? Why are they looking for you? What do you have that these people are needing and willing to kill people over? So then she tells him what's going on. 2 minutes later, I escorted Waylay over to Nash and Lucian. Naomi said Tina and Hugo were looking for a flash drive with some kind of information on it, Nash explained. No one seems to know what the information was on it or what happened to the drive. "Way has some information she wants to share," I said. I gave her shoulder a squeeze. "Go ahead, kid." She took a breath and then bent down to untie her shoe. "They were looking for this," she said, straightening with a heart charm now in her hand. Nash took it from her. He held the charm between his fingers and then frowned. Carefully, he pulled apart the middle. "Well, I'll be damned." "It's a flash drive." Mom was all worked up about this drive that she'd brought home, kept saying that she was finally getting her payday and that soon she'd be driving a big SUV and eating steak for every meal. I got curious and I peeked. It was just a list of names and addresses. I thought maybe it was important, so I copied the file onto my drive just in case. She's always losing things. Mom got mad at me for something stupid and cut my hair as punishment, so I decided to punish her back. I took the drive so she'd thought she'd lost it, and then I hid it in the library. "There's one more thing." "What's that?" Nash asked. "Your name is on the list." Lucian and I exchanged a look. "We need to see the list," Lucian announced. Nash reached out and covered Waylay's ears. "Fuck you do, assholes. Police business." We watched Nash guide her to the ambulance. "We need that damn list," Lucian said. I felt my lips curve. "That's not the only copy." She uploaded it to the library server. And then they all laugh. And then he asks Lucian to be his co-best man, and the book ends. There's 2 epilogues, or there's one obviously, but then it's you sign up for her reading list, and I think there's 2 maybe, or a super extended one. Either way, cut to epilogue being, they go to Waylay's birthday. Naomi gets full custody of Waylay. They're at Waylay's birthday party. Knox proposes to Naomi. They get married. Liza J decides that she's going to move into the cottage, and then Knox is going to give his house to Naomi's parents, and then Knox, Naomi, and Waylay are going to live at the lodge, right? So everybody's kind of shifting houses so they can all live together and all the grandparents can,
you know, be there and helping the kids and stuff, which is very cute and super cool and super wholesome. So that's the first epilogue. The second one, I think it talks about them like adopting a kid or two kids, and then Naomi gets pregnant, and like pretty much just them having a bunch of babies. The one thing though in the epilogue that I will say, I will read this one part because this actually made me cry. I want the wedding sooner rather than later. I'm not wasting another minute without making you my wife. You can have anything you want. A big church wedding, a backyard barbecue, a 5-figure wedding dress, but I have one demand. Of course, it was a demand and not a request. What's that? I want daisies in your hair. Yo, I even hate this guy. I hate this man. Hey, if you can't tell... Oh my god, how long have I been out of focus? Oh no! I hate this man. I hate this man. I hate this book. I hate this man. I hate this book. I hate the abusive behavior. I hate that we're normalizing it. I hate so much stuff about this stuff. But Daisy... Daisy is the cutest nickname ever. I tried to brush over it as much as I could because I, again, don't want to give this man any credit. But Daisy is the cutest nickname I think I've ever seen in a book. And so to end the epilogue with, I want daisies in your hair, it still makes me want to cry every single time that I read it. Long story short, we're at the end of this saga. I guess part 1 of 3 of the saga. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to my absolute ranting nonsense. I appreciate you so much. I would love to have your feedback. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this style. If you liked this, if you have any recommendations, or if there's any books that you would like to see me rant about, if you would like to see, you know, the rest of this trilogy, I'd be happy to. Like I said, I've absolutely loved the book ranting community, and I would love to be a part of it. So whatever you guys want, right? Like whatever I can do to provide content that you would enjoy, please let me know. And I don't know. Let's hang out. Like, just let me know what's going on, guys. I'll see you next time. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff if you liked what you saw today. And I look forward to creating stuff in the future. Thank you.